Good morning, everyone. This is O.G.Starwars. How are you doing? And our very first important question of the morning is, what is in your mug? So what are you drinking today as you're joining me for this live coffee chat? Whether it's coffee or not, please share. So we already have people coming in. Thank you guys so much for watching. So we have Matt G who said hello. And then we have Alphys, the Revanite, Christopher Barker, and so far that's who we have. Alphys Squash, you have squash in your mug. Okay. How's everybody doing this morning? And how are you guys handling our social distancing if you are here in America? My mug is filled with tea from the Shire. Awesome. So good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. Let's see here. It's kind of been slow lately with the news and all that. And then I took a small break from Twitter and stuff. And so I feel relaxed, had a nice time with my family, and, just caught up on some things, did some reading, and worked on my personal business. So Matt G, we have coffee. All right. And so today my mug is just a nice, pretty green one. Nothing important to it. Nothing sassy, just green. So yes. All right. So if you guys had a chance to watch the video, I did a lore video, not a book lore review video, but a lore review video on the Skywalker family tree. And so hopefully you guys had a chance to watch that. So that's what's going to be on our agenda today is the Skywalker family. We're going to talk about who's our favorite Skywalker, just each one maybe individually. So you guys can add any, in the conversation in the chat, add anything pertaining to the Skywalker family. We're also going to cover a little bit of news, something that I just wanted to bring up that I think is kind of, I wouldn't say weird, but maybe a little bit alarming with the reimagining of Anakin once again. So let's see here. Miss Sarcastic Nerd. Hello. Hello. How are you doing, darling? Hey, Miss. Hello, hello. Did you get your sushi? I seen that you posted that someone to go get you sushi. That sounds good. I want some sushi now too. Yeah, it's 9 a.m. here, but that sounds really good for lunch. All right, Mason. Hello, or hail OG. Hardly ever early enough to catch these. Drinking Starbucks dark roast with cold stone creamer. Nice. Sounds great. Yeah. All right. So you guys are all coming in. Press that like button and share as well. Let me see. I'm going to do one more thing before we move on here. So continue to share what's in your mug or what you're drinking. And we will get started. I'm going to share a little bit of news, and then we're going to get into talking about our beloved Skywalkers. And so you guys, let me know once we get to the topic who you like. All right. I actually have to go to the store, but I got the notification and thought I'd hang before I go. Awesome. Thank you for coming in, darling. I appreciate it. Hey, Alex, sup? Cheers. Sup? All right. Sushi for breakfast sounds like heaven. Yes. And I haven't had that in a while. Oh my God. This sounds so good. I might have to go check it out. Get some. If there's any place open now. Who knows? Okay. Hi, crazy cat guy. Greetings, all. Awesome. So hopefully you guys are faring well. And again, the social distancing and whether what state you're in, if you're here in America, and what's going on. And so we have, more restrictions going on, which I'm going to find interesting. Basically, if you can get fined if you're moving around needlessly or going out needlessly. So that's what was put on the news yesterday. So I just have yet to see it. So, all right, let me get this up here. What do we have? Okay. Let's see here. Chrome tab. There we go. All right. Learning to move through tabs here. So hopefully you guys could see that. Now this is from Bounding Into Comics. Hello, Wolfie. How are you doing? Good morning. Oh, and hey, Mads Mama Bear. How are you doing, darling? Welcome in. I may send you a link. I'm going to send you a link. Hold on. Let's see here. Ha 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 ha. It was an interesting night last night. That's all I have to say about that. I'm a little bit tired. So a little bit, low key, a little bit feeling low key, relaxed, I guess you can say. I sent you one, Mads. If you're ready, if you don't want to come in, that's fine. All right, Grobnob, how are you doing? Hello, everybody, especially the ladies. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Mr. Dystopian, hello, Alora. Why, hello, how are you doing? So you guys coming in, what is in your mug? What are you drinking? I had better start to the day. Awesome. Yeah. Good. That's good to hear. Bounding into comics, aren't they a joke? No, they have some good. I mean, every news, it's like opinion news and stuff. So yeah, so we're gonna look at this, and so let me go ahead and pull this up. I did invite a couple people in if they want to come in. If not, then I'm writing solo stay with you guys, which is fine. Let's see here. So what's going on here is the Vagrant Queen writer Magdalene Visaggio rewrites Star Wars, imagines Anakin Skywalker as an incel. And so I seen this a couple of days ago, or was it? Yeah, just a couple of days ago. And I try to click on her Twitter, and I unfortunately am blocked. So yes, I am blocked. So what's going on here is that she is trying to coin Anakin Skywalker as an incel. So we're gonna go ahead and read through this and chat about it a little bit. So Vagrant Queen writer Magdalene Visaggio recently decided to reimagine Star Wars by claiming that the story makes much more sense if Anakin was an incel. Visaggio wrote on Twitter, Anakin is a very young white guy who's been told he's special for half his life, but now he's 25 and sexually frustrated and angry that he isn't getting the recognition he thinks he deserves. So he immediately falls under the sway of a Nazi. So that's her opinion on that. And I wish I could click on here to see what people said to her regarding this, but I am blocked, so I cannot pull it up. And Visaggio then adds, honestly, if we look at him as an incel, his whole arc makes much more sense. And so again here, and here's her Twitter right here. Again, I can't pull it up, so we can't, take a look at the comments in the tweet. Visaggio, who previously wrote at Marvel Comics and DC Comics, is just another writer in a long line of them that either did not watch the actual Star Wars films, did not comprehend them, are actively trying to rewrite them so the film fits their own idiotic worldview. My guess on the latter. As Ichibaka on Disney Star Wars is dumb details the phrase of the Geekergate stage 2 reads. 2. IP is about to undergo reboot or reimagine or remake of whatever term is fashionable at the time. The rebooted production will tout first first female, first person of color, first LGBTQ plus, etc., even if the IP has already had them before. They do this to contrast their new version as far more virtuous and progressive than the previous version, which they spent years or decades labeling as racist, sexist, misogynist, homophobic, etc. It appears Visaggio is definitely attempting to reimagine the Star Wars prequel films in a new vision, because any Star Wars fan knows Anakin is anything but an incel. For those unfamiliar with the term, Urban Dictionary defines it as an involuntary celibate. They explain a person who has a horrible personality and treats women like sexual objects and thinks his lack of sex life comes from being ugly when it's really just his blatant sexism and terrible attitude. This is not Anakin Skywalker whatsoever. So I'm going to go on. Anakin is not an individual or involuntary celibate. He marries Padme at the end of the Attack of the Clones. He definitely isn't treating women horribly. In Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Padme tells Anakin that she is pregnant and his child is Anakin's. Padme states, and he marries her, of course, and Padme states, "Something wonderful has happened, Annie. I am pregnant." Skywalker responds, "That's wonderful," he adds. "This is a happy moment, the happiest moment of my life." To claim that he's sexual frustrated and an incel is not true, and dare I call it blatant lie, in order to push a new narrative about the actual story of Star Wars. Now Anakin is lured to the dark side because he doesn't feel like he's getting the proper recognition from the Jedi. After Palpatine appoints him to the Jedi Council, the Council does not grant Anakin the rank of Master. Anakin tells Obi-Wan Kenobi that he believes that their refusal to not grant him the title of Master is insulting. However, his frustration at not receiving the proper recognition is overshadowed by the growing distrust of the Jedi, as well as his fear for Padme and his children's life. Well, child at the time. He didn't know he had twins until after the fact. Anakin explains his distrust to Obi-Wan Kenobi when he asks him to spy on Palpatine. "You are asking me to do something against the Jedi Code, against the Republic, against a mentor and a friend. That is what is out of place here." Despite his destruction of the Jedi, Anakin does take on the role of spying for the Jedi, or his distrust, not destruction. Jeez. He even informs Mace Windu that Palpatine is the Sith Lord. He won't give up his power. "I've just learned a terrible truth. I think Chancellor Palpatine is a Sith Lord," he adds. "Yes, the one we've been looking for." He continues, "He knows the ways of the Force. He's been trained to use the dark side." Anakin only embraces the dark side of the Force and becomes Palpatine's apprentice on one condition, that he helps him save Padme's life. And that's a great point right there. So basically his whole arc basically is about family, and this is a story about family. So this incel suggestion or reboot, remake, or whatever, it just doesn't fit the story. Anakin tells Palpatine, "I will do whatever you ask," he adds. "Just help me save Padme's life. I can't live without her." Palpatine then tells him, "I cheat death to teach death is a power only the one has achieved, but if we work together, I know we can discover the secret." Skywalker then states, "I pledge myself to your teachings." Palpatine then knights him Darth Vader. "The Force is strong in you, a powerful Sith you will become. Henceforth, you shall be known as Darth Vader." As you can tell by examining the actual Star Wars, Visaggio's treatment, and the thousands of the people who liked and retweeted the idea that Anakin is an incel and turns to the dark side because of sexual frustration is a complete and utter lie. A lie, I believe, was specifically created to radically alter how the actual story of Star Wars. And so there you have it, everyone. that is what I read, and I tried to investigate a little bit further, but I got blocked. So let's see. Hi, Ivan. Good morning. Subhuman, please tell me this person is joking. Obviously, this is before April's Fools, so I don't know. She isn't. Yep. This makes me so mad. If you don't know Star Wars, stop trying to tell us what our characters are. Exactly. Morning, everyone. How are you doing, Trayla? Let's see here. Alex. Okay, so that's to Christopher. Kek, how you doing? What's in your mug? So those coming in, what are you sipping on this morning? And good morning from California. Mace Sith Lord. Yep. I find this hilarious. Yes, it is. And again, it's just revisiting or reimagining or rebooting, whatever you want to call it, Anakin's arc once more. I question if she's even watched the films. Same here. It's amazing how all this is happening. And I mean, I'm not surprised. So it's just more of the coming of the reboots, I guess you can say, of the characters and the storyline. And, maybe not our generation. Our generation may see the changes going, but by the next generation, Star Wars is going to be reimagined and and rewritten. And it's, it's going through it right now. Just coffee right now. Awesome. Revenite, it's 5 p.m. here for me. So diet soda, OG. Nice. Hope you're enjoying it. And I have the lighting in here. I'm going to go turn on my light here just to add a little bit more. So hold on. I don't know if it's going to help anymore. All right. There we go. I don't think it did. Oh, well. All right. Jeremy Johns made a good comparison between Anakin and Bram Stoker's Dracula. He loses the woman he loves. He snaps and gives into the devil. Exactly. And the thing is that, it's all about love. It's all about family. And that's what George intended as well, is that it was a story about family, kind of an opera, basically soap opera, basically in space, but it basically is about the family. And we see, the rise and fall of Darth Vader, and then his redemption through his son. He realizes that he still has family, and that was the pivotal turning point. And that's what Anakin was about, is that he cared about people. He cared about his mother. So he, when he was losing his mother and he had those visions, he went to her aid, and it wasn't fast enough, I guess you can say. And he got there not in the nick of time. He still loses her, which begins his transcendence into the dark side as Vader. And then from there, he's falling in love with Padme, and they eventually get married, and they start having a family. She's pregnant, and then he loses her as well. So that's what tips him. And so that's not an incel act. If you look at the definition, that's not an incel act. And right now, the culture is that, white men are bad, or men are bad, toxic masculinity, so we have all those themes coming. And so they're playing right into this and rewriting the characters according to that. And it's not going to make sense in the future either. If you keep everything classic like George did with a trope of like the hero's journey and stuff, that resonates through all cultures, no matter where you come from. And then also me being, like family values, and, like Anakin's character arc, all about family and wanting to, be there for his family. That's another great character arc, and we don't see that a lot. Let's see. So, Mads, I sent you a link if you want to come in. If you don't, that's fine. Alex Krogan, in the end, Anakin is a victim of both his own choices and Palpatine's manipulation. Yes, and the thing is with that, it's very true. He is, and he wanted to, he wanted the Jedi to free the slaves. He wanted to become free, him and his mother. His mother eventually does, because if you read some of the EU books like Tatooine Ghosts, it gives an example of how Klieg Lards basically buys Shmi and marries her. So he sets her free. He buys her freedom, sets her free, and he ends up marrying her. And so she has her freedom, and Qui-Gon sets that in motion. So when I read the life and legends of Obi-Wan Kenobi, that right there explains a little bit more of what Qui-Gon did. He sent the Tobal crystal in hopes to help Shmi find her freedom. Let me see here. George Lucas was never really able to create anything good. What? What? No. His storyline was amazing from the OT to the prequels and into the EU. So I don't know what you're talking about. If you're trying to counter with Disney, no. Star Wars is done by a team of people. It was his story, and that's how everything is you're always going to have a team of people, but it was his story. And then it was scripted out into the scripts for the films, and then it was I wouldn't say reimagined, because no, they did not reinvent Star Wars. But when the authors began to write for the franchise, everything was approved through George, even if it was just like, okay, especially the main film characters, he had a say in everything. So basically everything had to be under the tutelage of the films and be in continuity of it and be approved by him at least. The OT was done by George as well. And so was the PT. There were his stories, no matter if he had someone rewrite the scripts or not. And it shows his ability to create. He is a creative genius, and creative genius doesn't mean that you are going to be a good script writer. It doesn't. It just means that you just need someone to translate your story into scripts. So basically it's Padme's fault. For his fall, not necessarily, because it was also Anakin's choice to have the relationship. As we see in the Attack of the Clones, they have that banter of not be able to be successful in the relationship when they were in front of the fire. And then from there it evolved. And then finally when they were at Geonosis, was it Geonosis? No, it wasn't Geonosis. But when they were, or was it? Geez, I'm forgetting. Well, anyways, when they were gonna have their lives ended, then they decided to go ahead and go forth with it. Let's see here, Alexander. Let's see here. General Star Wars lore question: with Force users having visions of the future, is it presidentation? What is that? Or predestination. Okay, I should be wearing my glasses when I read these, because I do wear glasses and I don't have contacts, so I'm sorry. Or do they only see a possible future? So yeah, they see a possible future. As Yoda says, the future is always in motion. And then when you get into the stories, like Jacen Solo in his 5-year hiatus, and we're going to get into the Skywalker family since we're starting to discuss more and more about it. He flow walks. And so what he learns also is that if you alter or mess with the future, if you go future or past with the flow walking, the force will correct itself, and sometimes it could be detrimental to you. So, but the future is always in motion, and you also can get visions of possible futures. And I just lost my space. Oh, you guys are hopping in the chat. I love it. Awesome. I love that people throw out different fantasy lore books. Facts are that OT has about 95% audience score. And that's fine. That's great. That's the original Star Wars. But still the PT also has great stories, and George was involved in all of his films and they came from his mind, even if he had writers and people, he can't direct it, produce it, write it, all that by himself. He can't. And that's just like saying, oh, well, he did everything and he acted everything out. He can't. You're going to have to you're going to have to hire people to help you get these films produced. So all right. About that, George didn't want to make the prequels himself. Spielberg, Ron Howard, etc. all told him to do it himself. The thing is, no matter if he did it himself, directed, write it, or whatever, or not, and he had help, it's still his Star Wars. It still came from his mind. And so that's despite the fact. The OT was written by George and directed by other people. PT was written and directed by George, and Disney trilogy was written by a committee with no plan. Exactly. Christopher Barker. The EU is basically modern Star Wars. Let's see here. All right, let's see here. Yeah, she helped edit, but the thing is, you have to edit the movies. So just saying, oh, well, it was edited by her. Yes, it was. However, when he did the PT, it was also edited by whoever he had to edit the movies, those movies. So, that in a sense is a little bit irrelevant because all movies are edited or re-edited before they are make it to the theaters. And we've seen with the Rise of Skywalker that they were re-edited all the way up to the last minute. So that to me again is pointless. All movies do get edited and re-edited until they feel that it's presentable to and will be a good product. Modern Star Wars plagiarized the EU. Hey, O.G.Starwars, you look beautiful. Thank you so much. How are you doing? I am so glad you're with us. And what is in your coffee this morning? I hope you guys are having a great morning in your social distancing. All right. All right. Hey, O.G.Starwars. Okay. Oh, geez. Hello. And I do have two of you guys here. Okay. Hi.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hi, I look down and I'm like, oh, I have guests in the sorry. How are you guys doing?
Just waking up.
Oh, well, good morning. Did you get your coffee?
No, I came
Why
right
not?
in. Also, there's an echo.
Am I echoing? Is there me? Is it me echoing?
I think so.
Hi, Demogenize. Am I sometimes when I have my and I think we talked about this last night when we were chatting. My mic too close to the laptop, it echoes a little bit. Yeah. So hello everyone and welcome Mads, Mama Bear, and Stick. And I was just addressing some of the chats here about George Lucas and his movie production. Basically, is the topic in the chat right now with Alexander.
Yeah. I also saw the Buff Cheeto Puff is in the chat.
Who?
Majinai.
Oh yeah. Oh, there you go. I was like, I had to it's kind of morning, not kind of, it's morning for me. So I'm still comprehending some stuff here, slowly
It's technically noon here, but yeah, I'm having my coffee right now.
Okay, and Stig is just barely waking up. Thank you for coming in. So if you guys want to address it, what was going on in the chat talking about George and who helped him with the movies and all that, if you guys have your own insight on that, go ahead and share with us.
I don't have a ton of it, anywhere near the information that you and the guys do about Star Wars, but but you know what, you're talking about it, I am capable of. Like the whole Anakin arc, like what this woman's doing is just nuts. Even the original trilogy is based on him having kids. Obviously, you take the whole incel factor. I mean, I'm done with monkeys right now.
Oh my God, and then so I wanted, like I said, I wanted to open up her tweets so we can see what people say in the comics or the reach or their tweets back to her. And I can't because I am blocked. I was automatically blocked from her. I have never interacted, but you know how that goes. Sometimes they chain block because they don't want the backlash. They don't want to be questioned on the path that they're going to take the story or even their thoughts.
You know what? Right now I can understand that.
Yeah. And so my thing is if you're going to do such a bold statement like that, you need to be prepared to defend yourself. You need to have a strong argument. If you don't, of course, you're going to block people. So, you're going to avoid that. So, yeah, he was a genius. So, Stig, so what do you think? I know you just barely woke up, so you're barely catching up on everything. So, about the comment about George not really being creative, I guess you can say.
Yeah, I was unconscious 11 minutes ago. Then I woke up in your back room, so I'm wondering what the hell happened. And there's a faint smell of chloroform for some reason.
Wow. I don't know. I can't help you with that.
You helped enough. What was the question? Sorry, I was goofing around. I forgot the question.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, that Alexander was basically saying George wasn't creative with Star Wars, and that So it's just going into this George Lucas. Sounds like anti-George Lucas thing.
Well, he is of course allowed to think that.
Of course.
It's his opinion. If he doesn't like Star Wars, that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
But I think he's wrong. I think George Lucas was very creative, and the way he took every identifiable thing from from myths and legends, and then compressed them and simplified them all into one story, so that pretty much everyone on the planet could identify with it, right? So it would be a familiar story to everyone.
Yeah,
that's an extreme amount of work, and I can't stress that enough.
Yeah,
that's a lot of back and forth and nitpicking. And this was before the internet. He had books next to him, stacks of books. This was a slow process.
Yeah.
And Star Wars, the first one, changed basically the whole movie industry. That movie exploded onto the screen, and the movie industry was changed forever. And every director says this. Ridley Scott, Steven Spielberg, all of them. Kubrick said it, and that's not a small thing. That's what a genius would do. They come up with something, and bang. And Tolkien did the same thing with books.
Yeah.
After Tolkien did the Lord of the Rings, fantasy books and stories all of a sudden had a market. So that genre exploded from that. Even though there were people that were before Tolkien, but they were never that big. Same with George Lucas. There were movies set in space before Star Wars, but they weren't done in the same way. So George Lucas is up there with Tolkien.
Yeah. And I some of you guys may know Stig. He also is a writer as well. So he basically wrote lore and so understands how all that is created and stuff. So I love talking with him about this because he has that background. And he's not only creative with his puns, he is creative with his writing. And so he's always someone good to pull on their ear and chat away with various lores and everything. And he's always given me different books or series to read, that because I love lore and fantasy as well. And so he's always saying, hey, have you read this or have you read that, kind of deal. And so you guys always, if you want to learn more, Stig has a lot of knowledge. So Yeah. So basically, this is the conversation in there we have. And me, I will defend. I'm a George Lucas defender because of the fact that Star Wars came from him. It's his baby. And those who say, oh, he's not creative or he messed shit up or whatever, I'm like, okay, who are you going to compare him to? Because he's the original creator. What is there to compare to? And how everything was written is how it's supposed to be. So how are you going to compare? Okay, nerd cookies. George Lucas doesn't like killing off main characters, and that's the thing too. So when you look into the EU, but I'll get to this right here pretty soon. When where was it? Okay, so in Vector Prime in the New Jedi Order series, they wanted to kill off Luke Skywalker. George said nope, and he gave a list of who to kill off. He put Han on the chopping block. Yes, he did. He put Leia on the chopping block, and he put Chewie. He put Chewie. They did not feel Han and Leia should have been the ones to be gone during that series as well. So they all decided on Chewie, and George said, okay, with it, and approved it. So I wouldn't say he wasn't.
I think it was Bob Salvatore's decision. He had to pick.
Yeah.
I saw an interview with him, and he was scared out of his mind.
Yeah.
Because there were millions of Star Wars fans, and so he said he had to choose one of them, and then get it approved. And then when it was approved, he heard a voice in the back of his mind, something like Kyle from South Park saying, "You bastard, you killed Chewie."
Yeah.
like the Kenny thing.
Yeah.
And when Disney scrapped the EU, I remember seeing him post something on Facebook that says, "Finally, I'm in the clear. Chewie's alive again."
Laura?
Yeah?
Check the back.
Oh, yes, I see. Sorry. Hello.
Well, hello. How are you?
Good.
Speaking of Wookiees, here's Drew.
Yeah, talk of Wookiees and they will come, right? No. So hello, Drew. You this is your first time on my channel, I believe.
I think
I've been on yours and I've been on stream with you, but not on mine.
Okay, yeah, it might be my first time, but
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So so now since the question is about George's creativity with Star Wars and stuff, so go ahead and share your opinion. Since everybody's giving their opinion.
Well, it's funny, Laura, because like we've seen, here lately, especially, when you and I have talked on Twitter, and we've kind of seen those tweets that you've had with some of the people that, we'll call them the EU doubters, right? And just the interactions where, they bring up this goofy argument that somehow he wasn't creative, and it's like, how would you even have the entire Star Wars universe without the guy if he wasn't creative? Number one, and then number two, you wouldn't have the expanded universe if the guy wasn't creative. So, I mean that disproves their just flawed logic right off the bat. But then when you come in with facts, obviously he was very creative. He knew the direction that he wanted to take it. Maybe he didn't know it at that moment, like when he wrote New Hope, but he had an idea after a while that when he started to expand on it, like, okay, now I know where it's going. And, he started to map it out because obviously, you take, for example, the prequel saga, he had that set to go even before, he put it on the screen. Obviously, it was planned out well in advance. So he definitely knew, and he always gave input, as far as I know, on most of the video games, the books, and everything else. So there's a great deal of influence and creativity there. So I don't understand the logic in some of these arguments when I see people go at you about especially the EU stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There is no logic. From somebody who's raised Vulcan, there's no logic in arguing with the creator.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's silly a lot of times, and I think a lot of people that, especially in some of the exchanges I've seen, that argue with O.G.Starwars, they're just trying to
That's another illogical move.
Well, yeah, it is.
Arguing Star Wars with either her or Lord Callus. Yeah, that's just.
Yeah, exactly. Because they will get wrecked. I mean, that's just inevitable. But the thing is, though, they push their luck, and these people just keep talking and talking and talking. It's like they want to see their own stuff that they type to convince themselves that they're right. Because normally, OG just types back a completely logical and factual response, and they're like, rah, 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 run on sentence, in response. So,
yeah. And the thing is like, yeah, I always tell people, whatever area of Star Wars, and we're at that point now. We never were like that, like before 2012, before the buyout. We never had to say, like what you want to like. And, maybe to an extent we may have said that because some people were just plain moviegoers and that's it.
Right.
And then have the hardcore fans, if you want to label us, that went into the EU games, all that. But now we're at the point, it's like, either, you're, and I hate to say that, either you're George Lucas era liker of Star Wars, or you sit on that fence and you like a little bit of both, or you're pure Disney Star Wars. And I say, like what you want to like, but the fact is that Disney or Star Wars before Disney was very coherent, written well, with very little reboots and retcons, and those retcons were just to basically stabilize it again and put it back on track and all that. And so now we have this here, and so now we have like the story group saying that if we are going to go ahead and contradict our novels, we are going to go ahead and contradict our movies. And so now we're at a point with Star Wars where it was built on continuity, the only franchise ever to be built that way, with 25 millennia of history now erased, and they made the time frame shorter now, and they don't care in contradicting their own material.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're also running into problems when they scrapped the EU. They also removed about 200 planets from the galaxy map. So they'll have books, right, where they, the characters is, they're struggling. They need to find the nearest planet and whatever to fix their ship. Then a book 2 months later might come out, and all of a sudden there's a planet placed right next to where the people in the other book were, and then we're like, okay, why didn't you just go there? It was just 5 minutes away.
Right, exactly.
Their space travel doesn't make sense anymore. It doesn't.
No, because like you saw in the Rise of Skywalker, when they did that hyperspace skipping, traveling in hyperspace takes time. I think Han Solo and the others spent at least a day getting from Tatooine to the leftovers of Alderaan.
Yeah.
Yet in the Rise of Skywalker, they skipped across the whole galaxy in seconds. So they seem to think hyperspace travel is teleporting. It isn't. So that whole sequence should have taken 4 or 5 days at least, maybe even 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point, Stig, and it goes to the even broader picture of details. And again, this is a problem that's spilling over multiple franchises, because you've got so many of the creatives that are in charge now don't understand details, and they haphazardly
creative.
Yeah, exactly. They haphazardly throw them aside, because they're not taking into account why they're there in the first place. So, hey, Thomas Kilkey, how you doing? The biggest thing is it's like you said, Stig, with hyperspace and just the way that the travel worked, or that we understood that it worked before this. And then also you take for example in Star Trek, to make a Star Trek point here. It's the same thing with warp travel now. There was no reason to change it, yet we've got this change to it now that makes it look absolutely asinine. And it's just like I said, I really shudder to think what we're going to be in store for with the High Republic books, because I don't think that they're going to make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, and Disney made a statement when they scrapped the EU, and scrapping the EU is fine in a way, because it's their Star Wars now, right?
Uh-huh.
But if you're going to scrap it, you need to replace it with something that's at least just as good.
Yeah.
Right.
And they didn't do that, and they made a huge statement saying, from here on out, the movies and every story-based Star Wars product will be canon.
Mm-hmm.
So if you buy Star Wars comic number 17, it's just as canon as Star Wars Episode 7 or 3. And they promised, every product would have a complete synergy between each other, and the story group would be in charge of that. And that's not happened.
Yeah, and I would like to think, if they were going to do that, why would you not just hire actual Star Wars fans? The thing that stinks for us, and again, this is the greater picture here. I think Alora made the best point when she said around 2012, at least from the Star Wars side of it, that was the point we hit the hostile infiltration of just the really sort of fans that came in that were like not really Star Wars fans, but the ones that came in, and I'm trying to be nice about it. Well, all right, hell, I'll just say it. The SJWs infiltrated the fandom and essentially hijacked it. And then we're at the contentious point that we're at, where, it's like how you explain things, where, you have to be either in the George Lucas camp or, in the Disney camp. And then you get, if you defend the Lucas stuff, you get like absolutely torn apart for it, because they always do the same thing. They always pile on because they know no other mentality but to come out and pile on. SJW specialize in the Twitter mob tactic.
Here's a question though. SJWs can't create; they can only edit and tear down. But have any of you seen a franchise started by an SJW that has been successful?
No,
it's never happened before.
No,
all they've done is taking successful franchises and make them unsuccessful.
Well, Stig, we were just talking about this recent stuff with the New Warriors comic book, and how they're pushing that, and that's just absolutely, I mean, nobody could even take it seriously because the characters themselves are not presented in a serious manner. It looks like somebody sitting there in a theme park, when you walk by those booths where people are doing caricatures, that's what those characters look like. They're not to be taken seriously. And the same thing with DC Comics just did it.
To be fair, that's what the author looked like too.
Yeah. But the DC Comics just did the same thing with Batman. And I know, I'm sure, Abu, I'm sure you heard about that. What's up, Abu Nas?
Yeah, hello, Abu Nas. How are you doing? And so the topic in here is, and I'll let you answer here in a couple of seconds.
I didn't even know I was even invited.
I told you I may invite you. So yeah, so I sent the link.
I must have missed the chat then. I must have missed it because I'm slept in today.
Yeah.
And I got up late. I'm making phone calls and stuff, and I just happened to jump on Twitter to reach out to Drunk, and then I saw it. And I was like, oh my gosh, she sent the link. I was not even prepared. I ain't got nothing set up. I'm still eating breakfast right now. And of course, I had to get my favorite mug out. You know how I gets down. So I got to get that together. So, yeah. Now I'm like, I hope I didn't miss the show.
Okay, so what the topic is basically I talked about the Magdalene Visaggio's reimagining of Anakin Skywalker as an incel. So I did that.
Oh my God. Yeah, I saw that tweet. Oh my goodness.
And she blocked me from the beginning. So
wow, that was fast.
Yeah, I didn't even have to say anything. She just blocked me.
You know what? That's because your name is ringing bells. It was almost like, well, I just want to see O.G.Starwars Legends. Oh hell no, she Lucas era. Nope, give it her quick.
And so we were talking about that and her reimagining Anakin as an incel, and Bounding Into Comics is the one that written the article, the spot on with all the points. And then also too, we had someone start a very interesting comment or a topic in the comments about George not being very creative with Star Wars. And yeah, again,
somebody in the comment had the nerve to say that.
And again, they can speak their own opinion. That's fine. But they're doing it in a situation to where I am a very huge George Lucas supporter. And without,
I don't even know why you come on the show. Yeah, I don't even know why you come on your show saying something stupid like that. You choose Legends. That should tell you that you're not with the Disney era. That should tell you right then and there. Yeah. Well, if you coming on here, then obviously you're a damn troll, because ain't no way you're supposed to open up your mouth on a channel where her content only deals with stuff.
Yeah.
So why would you do that to yourself? Well, Abu Nas is here now, so whatever she ain't gonna say, you know exactly what I'm gonna say. Linda want to chill and hang out with us and get the knowledge, and that's one thing. But
just an observation.
Or maybe that person is that chick in disguise coming into your channel and wanted to stir the pot. Either way, it is what it is. The girl said Anakin is an incel, and I can't remember what the tweet was, but he made it seem like he was some sex crazed maniac, and just seducing her and knocking her up and all of this other nonsense. And it's like, they're married, they fell in love. It wasn't a one-way street. He wasn't creeping out on her. Maybe when in Attack of the Clones, it was like he said, I think she don't like me looking at her or whatever. Yeah, but that's just a throwaway, because afterwards, what did she say? She wanted Anakin and Obi-Wan to handle the business. They're doing the thing for the Jedi Council, and they were protecting her. She ain't go all the way to Naboo with him if he was supposed to be a creep. He had a job to do. He was the head of security. He was looking out for her protection. But everybody that knows the Lucas era, Lucas ain't on no creep shit. He's old school. He's old school. He's old school romance, old school everything. These kids don't know nothing about that, because that was way before their time. The only thing they know is what they see and get in today's news. That's it. But we're here to tell you, man, the world is a lot more wider than your 21 or 22 years on the earth, or maybe 24. You know what? I'll even give you 25 and 26. The world is a lot more open than that. And unfortunately, you're not, how should we say, you're not in the know with the more mature crowd that can give you more knowledge and substance to the things that you quote unquote claim that you love. But you get in the backlash now, and now you got to block everybody. What did you expect to happen? It was going to be universally loved that Anakin was supposed to be a quote unquote incel. That's like saying he's a dirty he's a peeping Tom, or he's you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's pretty much what you're trying to say he is.
Yeah,
I don't understand these people, man. I really
So
don't.
Becky says Abu looks like a Sith being in the shadows. Laugh
Ha
out.
ha! You
Yeah.
damn right. I roll with the dark side, baby. The dark council.
Yeah, he's coming on the
I've,
dark
uh,
side.
I've
Oh,
noticed
yeah.
something too.
Yes,
Yeah,
Steve.
what's up?
If you look at this panel, this is a Star Wars EU panel,
Mhm.
and it's more diverse than Disney Star Wars.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we're supposed to be racists
yeah, that's
and
right.
all straight white men.
Yeah.
That's
Let's not go down
no.
that road. I've got enough of that talk for the past.
But no, I just want to say real quick, man, it's awesome. I've been waiting for this. Finally, I get on the same panel with Abu Nas. So
Oh
you know,
man, brother.
cool.
Like I said, it's a pleasure meeting you. I'm glad that you're here. Like I said, I wasn't expecting myself to be invited. Like I said, I missed the
I
memo.
told you.
I wasn't
You
either.
probably
bro.
did. Like I said,
well,
I just missed the memo.
We all know the reality. Laura snaps her fingers and we show up. So
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that too. You see, I'm here.
Exactly.
I'm actually not kidding.
Shoot,
in this
I'm
case. She mentioned it 3 times while I was in the chat.
I was like, I sent you a link. I sent you a link. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
I did run up, have to check the mail because I am expecting another thing from Teespring in, but sadly it's not in today. So
Oh,
Yeah.
still didn't
Yeah.
get the shirt yet.
no, I've got the Dark Council shirt.
Oh,
But
okay,
I'm waiting.
good.
I'm waiting on another one that would have been great for a reveal tonight.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Ah.
Yeah, I was waiting for my mug.
There we go.
And I think you froze. Look
Yep.
at that.
He froze. He froze with the perfect product
So,
placement.
somebody
He's like,
somebody
"My
screenshot that. Somebody screenshot that.
Mhm.
Frozen posing Abu Nas.
That's the best product placement ever.
Right?
Those were the best freeze. This is an epic freeze. Ryan and Mara.
Okay, I think my internet just wigged out on me.
It
Uh,
did.
Dude,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Abu,
probably my haters. Probably my haters. They know I'm up in the building, so they
No,
trying to
but-
shut me down.
But the way that you froze, dude, you had
That
the
was
mug perfect. It was like perfect product placement. You did like,
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I'm all about right now.
Perfect
Product placement.
It was like a statue, to be honest.
hey, there's Tommy. Shout out to Tommy, best mod on YouTube. What up, Tommy?
Oh yeah, Mod Supreme Tommy. I got to give him special shouts.
Yeah,
But,
Tommy's a great guy and a very good friend.
But no, so continue with your thoughts, OG.
Okay, I lost my train of thoughts. What was it?
We-
I'm being honest. I'm like, what was
Thanks,
we talking
Becky.
about?
well, we were just talking, in general about Anakin being an incel and George being, his the range of his creativity, and especially with speaking on the part of Anakin being an incel, I agree a lot with Abu's assessment. The fact that, I mean, painting him like that. Even if you clearly watch the entire prequel trilogy, he was never like that. Did he have anger issues? Yeah, probably, but he wasn't an incel. He wasn't like somebody sitting there like creepily going along like checking out women. He did the star-crossed lovers thing with Padme. It was completely a good organic love story, and that's like
That's the problem, though. Look at all of the relationships that they're trying to pimp out in Hollywood right now. And the Raylo thing, that's a prime example.
Yeah.
The fact that it was a healthy, reciprocated relationship is the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, part of this, my live stream topic here is the Skywalker family. So this ain't your Disney Skywalker family. And,
Nope.
and so So segue into that, you know, our very first beloved Skywalker, which never gets that much attention, is Shmi Skywalker. So I want to go around the whole panel here. We'll start with Stig, and just give your information about like what you like about Shmi, or what have you noticed, or your insight about Shmi Skywalker.
The actress is a damn sweet. I was happy when she spoke.
We're not talking about the actress. We're talking about the character. No.
Well, Shmi Skywalker, I thought, was a very underrated character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's kind of quiet, keeps to the corner of the screen a lot, but I thought the actress did a tremendous job, because
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden you have this special son, right? That was she. It's like a virgin birth, right?
Mm-hmm.
She just got pregnant, and all of a sudden you have these Jedi's and whatever taking an interest in him.
Mm-hmm.
That would have to be scary as shit by itself.
Yeah.
But she still realizes, Anakin is here for a reason. And it probably took a tremendous amount of strength for her to let them take Anakin away. So she's arguably, in my opinion, the strongest female character in the series.
Yeah, and I'm gonna expand on yours a little bit, and then we'll go on to Mads. She basically is the first hope of the Skywalkers because of her how she was so giving of her son to the galaxy, and how she had that demeanor of hope and positiveness. That's how I seen her. So go ahead, Mads. Go ahead and share about what your thoughts about Shmi Skywalker.
I mean, I have a total respect for her,
Mm-hmm.
Doing the whole single mom thing. I can totally relate. I can relate to her. So she's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And really, if I've said it before, I'll say it again. If the Jedi Council actually had, just gone back and rescued her, this whole mess would have, not happened.
Okay.
I'm sorry, my brain is not working.
That's okay, and just sharing just minimum, that's fine too. I appreciate it. Like we have a diverse like basically stream panel of people here, so it's beautiful and I love it. So go ahead, Drew, give your thoughts about Shmi. Anything that you want to add to this?
Well, the thing that I first noticed a lot about the Shmi Skywalker was definitely that really like calm and gentle demeanor, and you would think for somebody to be in that situation and be under in a situation where she's a slave and her boy's a slave and living like that, she still managed to make it through. And the thing is that I found so awesome about her was, there were a lot of times, especially the interactions that she had when she would try to, explain something to Anakin. She was always just so, wise and nurturing. And I really loved her wisdom in the things that the lessons and the things that she tried to impart on him. I thought was so great. And it's like Stig said, the actress knocked it out of the park. The character was really, really, really good. So yeah, I really enjoyed Shmi Skywalker. I've always liked her. Very underrated. I second that.
Okay. And I'll just give a little bit more history about her, and then we'll move on to Abu Nas. So she was born 72 BBY. So BBY is Battle Before Yavin, and she died 22 BBY. And, we know her death. It's in the movies. And she was, before she became a slave to Watto, she was basically the slave to Gardula the Hutt, which is Jabba's family member, his aunt, I believe. And so she sold her to Watto, and that's how her and Anakin came to Tatooine. is through that selling of her and Anakin to Watto. So go ahead and Abu, just share what your thoughts about Shmi Skywalker before we move on to the chosen one. And he froze up again.
Okay.
He's in thought right now. Look at that.
Again, he keeps freezing in these awesome poses.
Yeah, I know. He's just like,
there he goes. He's got those cool freeze ups.
yeah, I know.
Best
We can all be so lucky.
I'll be in some weird wide mouth kind of frozen thing, and he's like, check this mug out kind of deal.
I see you in the chat, D. You should honestly, you should be in here more than I should be.
Who's that?
Damaj.
Is he working right now? And I want you on here too as well. But Damaj and are you working?
I think he said the other day that they got him at home. Yeah, he was complaining about that on the Dark Council the other Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah. So what up, Demogeni? It's good to see you, brother. And what up, Soul Assassin?
So where was I? Okay.
Shmi
Skywalker.
Skywalker. Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at Alfarius's comment. That's going to be a new nickname for you, Abu.
What?
Oh, let me see.
What happened? I don't have my phone, so I can't even see.
I don't know. You don't. I see she's waiting to pull it up.
Who did it? I missed it.
Alfarius. It should be coming up shortly.
Oh, okay, Darth Freeze. Here we go.
Darth Freeze.
You're freezing in some cool poses too. So like no one could beat you on the freeze.
Seriously, cool
I swear.
poses.
Somebody should screenshot it.
Abu Nas got that freeze game today.
Yes, he's got the freeze game going on here.
I got to, you know what I'm saying? I got a reputation to uphold. But as far as Shmi goes, I have never really seen a female character with limited screen time. And I know they probably, expand on her in terms of the lore. And unfortunately, I haven't read, much in it in terms of the book with her. But just based off of the movies alone, I already got the picture of what type and, how she is. She's been through hell in terms of being a slave and being, shuffled off from one area to the galaxy to another. And throughout it all, she kept her head high, knowing that she made the best of any and every situation that was placed in front of her, and knowing that she hasn't been with anybody, but yet she wound up pregnant, and then she had to internalize what was going on behind that. And the movies doesn't, go too deep. But like I said, it's not, no deep thing where it's like rated R. You got to get all graphic and everything. No, they basically kept it simple. She couldn't explain what happened. I carried, I gave birth. She couldn't explain what happened. And if she couldn't explain it, the baby is there. It's my job to take care of my son. And was there thoughts going on in her mind about how it happened and stuff? Of course. But she didn't dwell on it. And if she did, she didn't do it in front of Anakin. Everything was about raising her son in the environment that she was placed in, where they were both slaves. But at the same time, she made it. She didn't I don't think normalize is a good word. No, she made it conducive to Anakin that this was their life. And she made it so that he was comfortable, he was loved, he was nurtured, and he was taught all the good things that was instilled in him when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan came to Tatooine.
Yeah,
he already had those traits. He was kind, he was considerate, he was friendly, and he was extremely helpful. If you needed anything, that's what all the things that Shmi taught Anakin from his birth all the way up before he left. And that instilled in him even throughout his Jedi training. The values and stuff that he had from his mother. So Shmi is one of the best, characters, female characters, if you want to go that route, for all the narrative-driven people. that you think about. There's no strong women in Star Wars other than Mary Sue Ray and Admiral Holdo and the Rose Tico enthusiasts, and and the Phasma admirers, and no other female is worthy to be even mentioned. But Shmi kind of like takes the cake from all of them, especially in the Disney fake bad fan fiction trilogy. Yeah, she takes the cake. She was a nurturer, and she nurtured the most powerful Jedi that had ever lived, and taught him certain things that carried him over into the type of Jedi he became as he was growing up.
Yeah.
And we have it, even though he was scarred, for the fact of leaving his mother, who he promised that he will come back. But the circumstances didn't play out the way he wanted. But the thought of his mother saying to him, my place is here. You have a bigger destiny out there, and you should take it. And he said, "Will I ever see you again?" And he said, "What would your heart tell you?" And he said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, we will see each other again, but don't look back. Go for your dreams and don't look back." She wanted better for her son in every way. She wanted to keep him there, but she knew that if the Jedi called and that was, his destiny and his purpose, she allowed him to let him go. That's tough. That's a tough thing for any mother to do. And she did it all for the strength of wanting better for her son than the life that she had there. You ain't never gonna find another character like that. And especially in a movie, everybody, try to disrespect like this the worst thing on earth when you're not even really looking deeper in it. All you worrying about is the kooky dialogue and the y'all going through all of that. But you're not really looking at the science, the deep themes that George Lucas put out there, and he's giving it to you in little spoonful, you little baby steps, and y'all still don't even get it. But for the
and what's so interesting is that yes, the OT came first, and then we get the PT. And that very first movie, The Phantom Menace, had to set up the world building for the entire 6 movies. So that's a huge feat for George Lucas to do, even after he had set the precedence of the OT, and then having to bring in his ideas and his storyline for the PT. So that was a big task for George to do. Yeah, he had ideas, but linking it, and yes, he had to alter a little bit of the OT for it to make sense. And there are very, very minor few things. Some people did not care for him. That's fine. As a creative person myself, we have that freedom of going back and redoing something for it to make sense in the series. I understand that. And but it did not change the storyline whatsoever. So he did not compromise the storyline. He enhanced it.
Yes.
And so with Shmi Skywalker, and then we're going to move on to Anakin. So we're going to try to hit
Can I chime in a bit?
Okay, go ahead.
There's something just struck me that I think a lot of people, including myself, tend to miss. And that's Watto, slave owner. He was actually kind. He was greedy. He had some bad traits, but he treated Anakin and Shmi kindly.
He was like that grumpy old uncle or grandpa. Yeah.
And he's the reason why Anakin has gotten the skills he has at tech stuff, and he lets Anakin pilot the pods and all kinds of stuff. He's actually very supportive, believe it or not. And later on, he's in episode 2. You can see he's actually happy that Shmi has gotten a good life, and he's happy that Anakin is back.
Yeah.
And a lot of that would have affected Anakin as well, because he wasn't mistreated.
Yeah. And she made, I guess she made the best of her circumstances, and maybe she did have her and Anakin had it better off to where they were. And I would like to say it's like the will of the Force, if you want to go into that aspect of it, into the lore. It's the will of the Force on how she ended up with Watto and how Anakin was found by Qui-Gon. And so that's an interesting development in itself. I wish it was expanded a little bit more on that. But
Watto is actually an interesting character. I would have loved to see his background.
Yeah.
Because he's a bit jaded, he's greedy, he has a gambling problem.
Yeah.
But he's still not a bad guy. You can
Yeah,
see
he took
that
good
he
care of them.
actually cares for Anakin and Shmi, and
Mhm.
you know.
And what's that, Mads?
Oh, he took good care of the two of them.
He did. He in it for the situation that everybody was in. Yes, he did. And then if you have a chance to read Tatooine Ghosts, and here I go referring back to the EU as well, when Leia is reviewing the data journal that she was gifted by Darklighter, because the Darklighters basically end up buying the Lars homestead. And so there's a little tie-in with that. So Biggs' aunt and uncle end up buying the Lars homestead. And in Tatooine Ghost is a place where they seek refuge. And so she's given a data journal of Shmi Skywalker. And so you see when she's recording entries in that data journal, you could see their interaction with her and Watto. And he did get depressed when Anakin left, which is very interesting. And I was like, wow, that's very interesting. So with Shmi Skywalker, how she came to the Lars is 32 BBY. Is when Klieg Lars bought her freedom. And like I said before, Qui-Gon set up, he was, I wouldn't say all knowing, but he found a way to set her free. And he knew that she was smart enough to take this chance. So he sent her a Tobal lens. Basically, it's a big crystal that helps with the spaceships levitate and all that. And I'm not getting into the very specifics of it because I can't think of it right now. So basically, it's a basic function for certain spaceships to use. And so he sends that to her. And with that, she has already met Klieg Lars, and he's already starting to fall in love with her and whatever. And so they use that as a tool to buy her freedom. And so eventually she is set free and she marries Klieg Lars. And so that's how she becomes a Lars, and how we see her with, in not with them, but in Attack of the Clone, when Anakin goes to go save her. And, so that's how she ends up there. So let's go on to Anakin Skywalker. And so now we're going to go the opposite way. We're going to start with Abu Nas. And, basically Anakin was born 41 BBY, battle before Yavin. And he was a virgin in the Force because the Force was countering Plagueis and Palpatine's manipulation of the Force. So basically, the Force created the chosen one to, basically restore balance and basically get rid of the Sith because of their meddling. So go ahead and Abu Nas.
Yeah. If anything, we could thank Darth Plagueis for having the presence of mind to use his powers to manipulate the midichlorians and control them, in which he could, seize and bring either life or death to a creation. Wrote all these things down, continued to keep, using that test subject, for what will be his ultimate prize that he literally discovered on his own. And it just so happens that, as blasphemous as it was, the Force made certain that this was not a type of thing that will be continued. Anakin was born in a way in which no human being should be born, but that was George Lucas's thought all throughout the prequels, that this young man is special. He's set up to do special and wonderful things. And for the most part, it all happened. He was gifted in the Force. He had the highest midichlorian count of any Jedi, including Yoda. That alone told you that this man was something to be on the watch for. And when you see him in the pod race, he's only 9 years old. You see how fast those pod race goes? Only aliens are able to have the cognizant, skills and reflexes to handle pod racing at those types of speeds. And they said, even in the movie, he's the only human that can do it. The only human being in the galaxy of trillions of people, he's the only one that could do it. That alone told you he was destined. So being a Jedi was, from what Qui-Gon Jinn saw in him, that, and he didn't even call him the chosen one yet. He knew that there was something about this boy. He kept saying it in the movie. There's something about this boy. he knew that this was something that he couldn't just leave behind. Even when he rolled the dice and he won, and he couldn't take both Shmi and Anakin, and he was left with a choice: the boy. There was a reason why he did that. So by the time they got to the Jedi Council and they gave Anakin the test, passed it like it wasn't nothing. But they was already knowing that his emotional state, he was already too old to be part of the Jedi training anyway. And they knew that he had that attachment to his mother. But what happened at the end? Obi-Wan said, I will train him myself if I have to, because he was going to honor Qui-Gon's last wish. He said he is the chosen one. I don't know how. I don't know why. And Obi-Wan is sitting up here like, you're not even listening to these people, man. They telling you there's something wrong with this kid. There's something about him is dangerous. And Yoda said clouded his future is. And nobody really picked up, other than the fact that Yoda said what he said. His future was clouded, but he was still destined for greatness. Anakin Skywalker has to be the most interesting character. Well, not interesting. I mean, outside of Luke Skywalker, it seemed like George Lucas struck lightning twice. He found the hero's journey with Luke, but with Anakin, he found the purpose, the fall of a hero, to raise somebody up. And I'll never forget George Lucas's interview where he literally turned the whole thing on its head. That throughout the OT, Darth Vader was the greatest villain, and he was like badass and this, but he was somebody that he was a bad guy, but somehow you rooted for him in certain ways, but you still wanted the good guys to win. But at the end of Return of the Jedi, now you have somebody saying that your sister was right. You already have saved me, and now you're wondering, well, what the hell happened? And George put it so beautifully. He said, I spent all this time, creating Darth Vader to be who he is. And I love the fact that, that the person that you thought was the villain was truly the victim. And that blew my mind away. And now you see it all played out in the PT off Anakin's arc.
Yeah, thank you, Abu Nas. That's some great facts right there. You can always count on him. And everybody here, we have all our own thoughts, stories, subjects about the character or Star Wars that we can share and expand on. So, Drew, go ahead and expand more on Anakin in your own opinion, in your own journey, or not journey, but I guess you could say journey with knowing his character personally for yourself.
I really liked his portrayal in the prequel trilogy. I liked the part with his childhood. I really liked it. I liked the angsty. It's funny. There's a lot of people that'll say Attack of the Clones. They didn't like, Angstykin, as a lot of people call him. But I didn't mind the angsty part of Anakin during that. He was coming into his own. He was figuring stuff out, and then I really like his portrayal. And I have to go over to the Clone Wars for this, but I kind of like that period between 2 and 3 that the Clone Wars depicts a lot of, because I really love how he grows as a Jedi, as an adult, as a leader.
That's the key right there.
And also, when he has to take on the responsibility of having his own apprentice. Right. And he has to, the responsibility of Ahsoka's well-being. And then, you have to see him, you see his whole demeanor sort of shift, because now he understands, holy hell, I have to be a teacher too. It's not, I'm not just out here, leading men and trying to win this war. In the middle of all this, I have to maintain an example for this young Padawan that is in my care now. And I find the growth in Anakin is just so pronounced, and you can see it. Yeah, and if you watch all 3 movies, and even between 2 and 3, if you sit down and binge Clone Wars, which fills in a lot of that. Man, you can just see how beautiful an arc he has growing into the man he's going to become. And then it just cements in, in episode 3, just what a tragedy the fall was, because he had turned into such a great man to that point.
Okay.
And Anakin's one of my favorite characters. So.
Mine too.
Yeah. All right. So going to one of the ladies in the panel, Matt, what is your opinion about the character Anakin? Maybe how he affected you in some way, and from his story, or share in general what your thoughts of Anakin Skywalker.
I'll admit, and I've openly admitted, I didn't grow up Star Wars. In fact, the prequels were actually my first introduction to Star Wars, because my girlfriend at the time, she was a big Star Wars fan. So that's how I got introduced to it. And even knowing the story of what was going to happen, you couldn't help but fall in love with, or at least I couldn't help it. Just adore Anakin for who he was, especially in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the prequels where you're kind of growing up with him,
mm-hmm.
and going through all of these experiences. When Shmi died, that rips your heart out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The way he did that was just so beautiful that you sympathized with this character.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, brain's just not really working today.
That's okay. Like I said, and I think we're all levels of fandom, I guess you could say, on this panel. Yeah. So, everybody, we have our own insight. If even it's just the movies and that's it, that's great, because
I fully admit that I'm a muggle of Star Wars.
That's okay, because
that's okay, Mads. We're gonna bring you up to speed real quick.
All right, now going to Mr. Stig Kenobi, and again, like I said, he's a pleasure to talk with, because he's written as well, so he knows development and lore and all that as well. So go ahead and share with us your insight on Anakin Skywalker.
Well, my first thought on Anakin is that his journey, in a sense, mirrors Luke's journey, but in a more almost inverted, shadowy kind of way. Because Anakin ends up as a hero in the end, while Luke starts to become one, I guess. Yeah. And while Luke grows as a good person, Anakin declines as a good person. Okay. So it's a reversal.
Yeah.
But they both end up being heroes in the end. Mm-hmm. Anakin takes a darker path, I guess, and he gets messed up more mentally. But Anakin is sure he's a bit whiny in episode 2. He is. I'll agree to that when people say that. But given the intense pressure the guy is under, and he's very young, I'm sure I was whiny when I was that age too.
I think we all were.
That was the point. That was the point of Lucas making him the way that they are. I mean, Jedis were basically more or less monks. They wasn't raised to be chasing chicks and rolling dice and getting money. Yes. Right. So he was only that type of way because, number one, he got his feelings caught up with Padme before he even went to the Jedi.
And then he already got his mother too.
Yeah. That was the love of his life right there.
And Anakin grew up as a slave, and the only thing he had was his mother. Mm-hmm. And when you lose everything you had, when she dies, of course it's going to affect you. Especially when you're at an age that when you're very, very impressionable. Yeah. All of that is very good writing. He lost everything he had basically, or everything he had when he grew up. His whole childhood got taken away in in one swift action, rather. But and then you have that thing where he's been told all his life that he's special, and when that happens, it messes up, your mind. I mean, look at the SJWs. They've been special snowflake case, right? They've been told they're special all the time, and then all of a sudden, I don't get to be a master. I was promised to be a master, and then starts whining about that. So he's had all these outside bits of pressure that Luke also experiences after he blew up the Death Star. Then all of a sudden, everyone expects him to do everything.
Yeah.
And all that stuff gets exploited by Palpatine, expertly so. He knows which buttons to push, and over time, he turns Anakin into probably the worst thing he can be. While on the other side, you have Luke and his friends are turning him into the best thing he can probably be. And Palpatine does this by wedging himself in between Padme and Kenobi, because they are the two people that would help Anakin become the best thing he could be. And you actually see it in episode 1 at the end. You see Anakin standing on the side when they're watching Qui-Gon burn. You have Kenobi and Padme between. Then you have Palpatine. That's symbolism, big time. You have Kenobi and Padme basically shielding Anakin from Palpatine. They're between them. And at the same time, both of them are obstacles Palpatine need to overcome to get to Anakin.
Nice.
So there's a double meaning and a foreshadowing, and it's a very, very good shot that George added for that scene.
Symbolism, the symbolism in the prequels was just off the charts.
Yes,
especially when it connects to the OT. So
yeah.
All right.
And Anakin as a character is superbly written because it makes sense. His whole fall makes sense. If you try to put yourself in his position, everything you ever loved and cared about is dead all of a sudden, right? And he's been thinking about his mom ever since he became a Jedi. And then the threat of that happening to Palpatine, to Padme, starts to emerge as well. So he's freaking out because he knows what it feels like, when he lost his mom and now his pregnant wife, right?
Yeah.
So he's arguably one of the best written characters in the whole saga. I'd say he's better written than Luke, if you only go by the movies. Anakin has a lot more depth.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Absolutely.
So what we're going to do is, because I want to try to get into the grandchildren here. So we're all still going to go through the panel and give our thoughts. So, think of one good thing that you like about the character, even if there's one, even if you're like, okay, I like this, but I don't like this, you can, compare and contrast, but let's try to keep it a little bit more short because I want to try to get all the way through to legacy era of Star Wars and the Skywalkers there. And so the next one we're going into is Luke Skywalker. So he is our first hero of Star Wars ever. He is the golden child of George Lucas. And of course, we all know his story. He was born 19 BBY. And his journey really began at 0 ABY. And for Anakin Skywalker, and I'll just, touch a little bit basis on that, is that I love his rise and fall. I like how, and this is going to sound funny, but I like how they portrayed his character in Attack of the Clones, because he was still coming into adulthood, but still a teenager, trying to figure things out, dealing with emotions, dealing with missing his mother, dealing with, like how he's treated at the temple because he's the chosen one, and how the council perceives him. So he has a lot of these emotions and these feelings that he is dealing with such a young mind still. as strong of a person he is. So of course you're going to see him like hee-hawing with being the chosen one, being a Jedi, or becoming a Jedi, and trying to appease everybody on the council, trying to figure everything out because he's not preconditioned from birth from the Jedi Council. So yeah, and so now speaking of that, we have Luke Skywalker, who is in compare and contrast with Anakin. He basically became what Anakin was to become. So again, he was born, you know, of course, we already know who his parents are, Padme and Anakin Skywalker. And so now we'll go with Stig, and we'll go around the horn that way.
Well, Luke Skywalker is a perfect vessel between the writer and the viewers or readers.
Yeah.
Because Luke is everyone when he starts out. You know, his gender doesn't even matter, because Luke in the first movie basically goes through stuff everyone has ever done. You know, the universal problems. He's living with his parents and his uncle and aunt, and he's helping them at the farm. You know, the family business. He wants to go to university. He's pissed off at the at the world because of the empire, right? And he has youthful ideals that everyone had, maybe even still has.
Yeah.
And he's constantly forced to do what's best for others in a way. He has to help his friends, and he does it. You know, if you're friends with someone, you help them. And he never succeeds really without help from anyone else, because it's also a story about friendship. You need your friends. You need a support network. And everyone who's grown up has been there. You know?
Yeah.
Sometimes you need help from good friends. When good friends help you, you'll sure as hell help them later.
Yeah.
You know? Or vice versa. And everyone has had to put aside, their dreams or plans because of family issues, or or you couldn't afford to go to university, or something, right? All kinds of stuff like that. So Luke in the first movie is pretty much the representation of the young viewer watching the movie, which is why so many young people love the story, because they could identify with Luke.
Yeah.
And everyone wanted to save the princess and go on an adventure with a swashbuckling hero and a wizard. It's at the heart of every good
fable that you ever read,
legend, mythology.
Yep.
Every heroic story, stuff like that, and it hits people right in the heart. And everyone watching it is basically Luke. When you watch the movie for the first time, because you basically see yourself easily in it.
Well said.
Several places. He grows, of course, goes through the hero's journey and becomes something greater than they started off as. And maybe a lot of things he did learn didn't turn out to be the way he expected, which is also good writing. Because Darth Vader wasn't just the big bad Black Knight. There was a person in that happened to be his dad.
Yeah, and like I said, this whole like the films and going into the EU and stuff was all about family. And even when you get away from the Skywalker family and go into the Old Republic, it still had the family aspect in there, some way, shape, or form.
And maybe the most important lesson in the old trilogy that everyone can identify with is, no matter how you try, you can still fail. If you fail, it's okay to get help to try and succeed next time. And what I'm getting at here is the cave scene, where Luke is told, Jedi only defends, he never attacks, and all that. He goes into the cave and has a vision of Vader. He attacks him, chops his head off, sees his own face, and he fails that test because he shouldn't have attacked. And it's foreshadowing, because if you attack Vader and kill him in anger, you'll become Vader. You'll basically turn to the dark side, which is what almost happens at the end of 6. And when he chops Vader's hand off, he sees his own cybernetic hand, right? And he realizes, yeah, my hand is Vader, right? And he realizes, I'm failing again. So he puts down his lightsaber and shows everyone that, he's learned from the past mistake.
Yeah.
He almost kills him, but then it turns Anakin, right?
Yeah.
Back to the light. And it goes back to what I said, that, in life you can try as hard as you can to succeed at something, and you may fail, but then someone else might help you succeed. So it's
and that's
about tips and choices, and keep going even though you stumble, right? Get up, trying again. So it's always okay to try again.
Yes. And that's the beauty of the Star Wars lore as well, is that the hero's journey isn't that you're on your own. You're always going to have someone there that's going to help you or go along with you in your journey. And that's why we see the triad, the three of them, the three protagonists. Luke Skywalker is the main one in the three. And then we have Han and Leia, who are the supporting protagonists, and they too have their own hero's journey. We're not going to necessarily get into that arc right there, but we are going to talk about Leia as well, since she's the twin of Luke Skywalker here pretty soon. So, Mads, what is your impression about Luke Skywalker? How did he make you feel when you first seen him? And then we'll move on. Hello?
Hey, Matt, you there?
Mads, hello?
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I thought you froze or we lost you or something.
No, I was just retweeting out Soul Assassin's link.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, I came at this from differently than most of the guys did, because I didn't, grow up with it. I didn't get the shocking reveal about all of it. But it's still it was interesting to watch. I mean, yeah, like Steve said, he was very representative of the average person, especially for that time, being just after Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
You had a lot of people struggling with a lot of those same very concepts. And where's my head going with this one? But watching the whole, he's discovering that everything he knew growing up was a lie, and how he still learns to take that and make that a strength. That is very awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't give up and leave his family, because again, Star Wars is basically family centered, and it's about hope, it's about forgiveness, and I think that's where the modern Star Wars, I guess you could say, is forgetting. And so, is that all you want to add, or you want to add anything else?
I think that's all I can come up with right now.
All right, so Drew, give us your thoughts about Luke Skywalker in short. It could be pertaining to the movies. If you want to go into the EU, that's fine as well.
I remember when I saw A New Hope. God, I was so young. My goodness, I was about 4 or 5 years old. I'm dating myself big time, but the thing is he appealed to even young boys and girls like that, because even though it showed Luke as young, probably 18, 19-year-old kid. Essentially, he had that sense of wonder, and I love the fact that he's like telling Obi-Wan, there's nothing left for me here. I want to see what's out there. And even he was conflicted before the stormtroopers took out his aunt and uncle, and he was having thoughts of like, man, I really want to go out and see what's out in the galaxy. And and this and that, and get after it and fight the Empire. And yeah, you just see it was so awesome back at that time to see an actual, like, real life hero on the screen, because of course, he's a legend in pop culture. I mean, that was one of our first really good glimpses into a hero's journey, and he reached like every age group, so that was even better. And so many people identified with Luke. And by the time we got around to Return of the Jedi, and you can start to clearly see that okay, he's really starting to gain wisdom and understanding. And you start to see, like, even when he progresses to being Grandmaster of the Jedi Order, just exactly that same journey. And Luke always had consistency. That's the thing that I liked about him. He was very good at being consistent with staying with his values, and aside of unforeseen brushes with the dark side that he had, he stuck to those. We won't talk about the abomination that the Disney saga turned into.
No.
but
we're raising the Skywalkers back up into their
Exactly.
true spot in Star Wars here, and we are talking about Vader's grandchildren, not grandchild. We're not talking about the impersonator that takes on the name either, so we won't go there.
Yeah, exactly. So if we go by what we normally go by, then you can really begin to see, especially when he gets into the era where he is the Grandmaster of the Jedi Order, just how far that he's come, and how well he does stick to his principles, and that is so. That's the thing I think that's so good about Luke. Is he always kind of avoided that pitfall that was the fatal flaw that his father had.
And I will add this, because I did, like I said, I did that honorary Skywalker family tree video, lore video. It was supposed to be Tuesday lore, ended up coming out Wednesday evening, but hey, that's okay. Not perfect. And anyways, when I was doing my research and just trying to narrow things down, because it's hard to do each character without doing a full bio, and you really want to do that full bio and really get into it, but so I was reading, and what was interesting about what I read when I was doing some of my research is that they said that what was said is that the Skywalkers are known, because of the chosen family. Basically, they're from the chosen one. Is that they're known for their redeeming qualities, that they can go to the dark and redeem themselves back to the light, and that's what makes them stand out.
I like to chime in something too.
Okay.
About Luke, because like I said, he's written to be everyone.
Yeah.
At the start.
The everyone character, yes.
Yeah, like a universal starting point, right?
Yeah.
And when I saw Kathleen Kennedy say that, girls can't identify with Luke Skywalker, it's the biggest bit of bullshit I've probably ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, women and girls have to struggle big time with life, same as guys, and with the same things. Women need friends too to help them, and they help friends, and they sure as hell have to put aside a lot of their hopes and dreams as well for the good of others. And in this day and age, where gender seems to be only in your mind, then the heck, it's contradictions are everywhere, and it shows how completely void of thinking Kathleen Kennedy actually is.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
I've spoken to many girls who identified with Luke Skywalker, and they loved every scene he was in. They could identify with it, identify with Luke, and girls like things that, or like characters that aren't princesses. They, sure they like princesses, but they like every other character as well. Women are people too. Disney needs to understand that.
Well, there's another point, Stig. The sense of wonder and sense of adventure, especially for a young person, that doesn't know any gender. It doesn't know any bounds. It's there. If you're a young person, it doesn't matter if you're male or female. You have
Yeah.
that sense of wonder and adventure, and that's a natural thing. And Luke captured that.
Yeah, and you can see it in any franchise. Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, all of them have a pile of female fans. Girls
Yeah.
love it.
All right.
The little sisters obsessed with stuff like that, and it's just so silly, the whole Disney thing.
Yeah. So this is a perfect segue. So we're gonna, after we're done with Luke, we're gonna go ahead and say a brief statement about Leia, so we can keep this moving. So we're gonna have Abu not only talk about Luke Skywalker, but his beautiful twin sister, our first lady of Star Wars, Leia Organa Solo. So go ahead and give us your brief thought about.
You want me to combine both of them?
You can if you want to, or you can segue
right.
from one to the other.
All
Be
right,
creative here.
Let me get the express package for you.
If you combine them, they would be.
No, I'm gonna combine them. I just have to think of. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, would you like to know everything you want to know about what makes your hero a real hero? Luke Skywalker. I was going to Tashi Station. I was going over to Tashi Station to put up some power converters. There's nothing for me here. I wanna learn the Force and be a Jedi like my father. I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you. And then they running off, and it's like, I can't believe Ben is gone. He's like, Luke, your mind is on a different path. Your mind, the Force will be with you always, and that's how he carried himself. The Empire Strikes Back. He gets trapped off, but he knows a lot about the Force to get him out of that danger. But he said, Ben, Dagobah, Then he goes to Dagobah, and it's like, I could be a Jedi. Ben, tell him, what know you about being a Jedi? And it's like, I'm not afraid. And then he says, they're my friends. I gotta go help them. Then he gets his ass whooped, and it's like, Ben, why didn't you tell me? Then he says, the last of the Jedi you will be. So I am a Jedi. No, Vader, face Vader. And he said, I can't kill my own father. There is good in him. Then he said, let go of your hate. I feel the conflict when you let go of your hate. My father is truly dead. He said, I'll never turn to the dark side. You failed. I am a Jedi, like my father before me. And then he stands heroically at the end, looking at his father, Anakin, and Ben, and Yoda in the netherworld of the Force, happy that his son has redeemed the father and saved the galaxy. 30 years later, oh yeah, baby, squeeze them titties, God, I love it. Go away, get off my island. I can't. What am I gonna do? Fight the First Order with a laser sword? Oh, you can't throw away your weapon, which he threw away in the former movie, and then he find his goodbyes. When Mary Sue Ray stole his land, took all his property and everything.
I would say back up, Abu.
Yeah, I know.
Disney.
But that was Luke Skywalker in a nutshell. So compare and contrast with that, Princess Leia, same thing. It's like, Darth Vader, only you could be so bold. The Imperial Senate would not sit still for this. And then Governor Tarkin. Oh, I smell your foul stench when I was brought on board. And then it was like, aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper? Somebody got to save our skin. Then she's like, somebody get this walking carpet, and it's like, I assume kiss a Wookiee and scruffy little nerf herder, and then she told the rebels, hey, we got to get on the ball, let's fight the Empire, blah blah blah. Then she said, Luke, we got to go get Luke, blah 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 blah. The Force was in her, blah blah blah. Then Return of the Jedi, strong, confident. She got the Ewoks to join the fight and this, that, whatever, and she showed her love for Han. Han was even smiling. He was like, baby, I love you. She said, I know. Pew, 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 pew. Just still doing her thing. And look what happened. Smacking up Poe. Smacking up this. Telling Han you a deadbeat dad. Snoke was the one that turned our son, even though Snoke was a clone that we found out. And what happened? I want you to help Ben. And that was it. That was it. So compare and contrast that to how iconic Leia was as a female, number one, a female going in that was already standing up to the bad guy Darth Vader with no fear. Everybody cowered behind Tarkin. She ran up on him and told him he had foul stench. Was not afraid to bring the fight to the stormtroopers, and when they was trying to escape Cloud City, she was doing a lot of the heavy lifting, ladies and gentlemen, and still had time to be a stateswoman, and still had time to be feminine. You know what I'm saying? Letting her hair down, looking beautiful, even though she was in, like Ewok type clothes. I don't know, how they made that, but I digress. But just the way that she looked and she carried herself, and then the fact that she said, for some reason, I've always known that we was related. But she tried to warn him, no, go far away, don't try to face him. But Luke said, hey, there's something about this man. I have got to try to reach him. But it took Leia a little bit more time for her to feel the same thing that Luke felt. But this was all in the EU. But either way, she became a statesman. She became a real leader in the EU, not somebody that you slapped a general tag on a titty and sent out in the open and that was it. No, she had great character development from the first. When she was training, when she gave birth to the twins, when she gave birth to Anakin, when she continued and completed her training, and eventually got her own student as well. That woman had an arc for the ages, but yet the narrative will tell you nobody was more special than Mary Sue Ray. But as we could see in the EU and the Legends, this woman had a complete arc, just like Luke Skywalker had a complete arc in terms of after Return of the Jedi, all the training and all the knowledge and the things that he amassed, and he got the Jedi Temple, the Jedi Academy up and running. But he faced off Exar Kun and his spirit in the formative years. But after that, it was go time. Adventure after adventure after adventure until he became the Jedi Grandmaster. The Order was rebuilt, and that was his job. That was what Yoda told him. Pass on what you learn. And then Ben told him, you are not the last, the heir of the Empire. You are not the last. You are the first of the New Order. That is Luke Skywalker in a nutshell. And that is Leia Organa in a nutshell.
I'm going to add my piece on Leia and Luke as well, and then we'll go to Drew and come back around. So I did share briefly about Luke, but my favorite arc about him, really, I love his hero's journey in the OT. I referenced the sabers as part of his hero's journey when they introduced him using a new saber in the Disney Star Wars canon. But we're not talking about that. My absolute favorite series of Luke Skywalker's and Legacy of the Force, my actual favorite book is Inferno, and this compare and contrast of Luke from Disney and Kylo and Luke from Disney and Darth Caedus. Mm-hmm. He was a boss. He went to go confront his nephew about certain things in that book, and he basically went in there, pinned Darth Caedus, Jacen Solo, down to his chair. And without even a flinch in the Force or a flinch in his body, he had total control, and he totally pinned Jacen or Darth Caedus down, and there was nothing he can do. He couldn't even move anything. Mm-hmm. They had their confrontation. Darth Caedus tried to use the younglings, the Jedi Praxium on Ossus against Luke, saying, what about the younglings? Do you want my gag officers to kill him, basically? And he's like, basically, are you threatening the younglings, basically? And he's like, you don't want to see me mad. So that was a reference back to his father, mm-hmm. back to his father's legacy, and back to that fire that the Skywalkers have in themselves. And mm-hmm. he's like, you don't want to see me when I'm angry.
Yeah,
that was
which would have been awesome, by the way, to see all powerful Luke Skywalker.
Mm-hmm. But Luke already knew he was powerful. That's why when he said in the subsequent book Invincible, where Jaina, they was going around, they was in the round table, and they was literally talking about how they was going to stop Jacen. It just like he took things too far. And then Luke said, I'm the only one here that's guaranteed that could stop him. But I cannot be the one to do it. because of the way when he killed Lumia, you know, and that his feelings was already tainted behind the murder of his wife, but he didn't know the truth at the time. So now that he knew the truth, but the taint was already there, because in the very smallest crevices in the force, he couldn't deny that there was like an inch of something that could lead him straight to the dark side in terms of wanting to kill him, like that actual pleasure to get back at him. And that was his own nephew, and he literally had to say, this has to be the way of someone else. But he said, I know what I can do. I can get him to focus on me so much, which that was Darth Cadus's only flaw. He feared his uncle. He even powerful as Darth Cadus was, and as powerful as Jacen Solo was in many of the books that was depicted in the EU, he always knew that his uncle was not to be played with. And do not try to fool him, and do not try to act like you can get over on him. That's how much respect that he had, even in the effect that he had to go against him.
All right. So yes, and so like I said, that was my favorite part of Luke's story and stuff. And then he also goes into exile, but that wasn't a self, opposed one. And I'm freezing
go away.
Yeah, that kind of exile. So now I'm going to go ahead and go back to Leia so we can get this going, because like I said, I want to get to the grandkids at least now. And we have time. So if anybody of you guys have to leave after the, soon, just let me know. It's fine. But we're getting into Leia, and then we're going to get into the twins, the Solo twins. And I'm so excited about that. So basically Leia, we see her, she had 3 presidents in her life. She was a rebel, she was a rebel, she was a revolutionist basically, and she was a politician, and she became a Jedi. And that was my most favorite arc of hers. We already seen her develop as a badass in the movies. But for her to slowly forgive her father, because she was tortured by him, to slowly forgive him, confronting him in Truth at Bakhora, slowly forgiving him in Tatooine, and that forgiveness enabled her to have kids. It set her free in her mind and in her spirits that having kids is okay. And so, we see Jaina born. She's named after Han's mom. And then we have Anakin Solo, who was named after her father, because of her forgiveness towards him. And also she wanted Anakin's name back there, positive in the galaxy once more. That is really deep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yes. So, okay, Drew, so go ahead and expound on Leia Organa Solo.
It's funny. A lot of people ask who's your favorite female Skywalker? And I still always defer to Padme, but with Leia, I mean, again, for a youngster seeing the original trilogy for the first time, seeing New Hope, because I saw New Hope. What was it? Oh God, when I was 5, so 79. Yeah, saw it a couple years after it originally came out, and my thing was, I liked Leia, and following her journey was really cool. Her journey as a leader. I thought that she had a really good combination of tactical smarts and and the ability to plan on the fly, which I always thought was pretty neat. As far as she went, because she could improvise. That's a very underrated skill. When you think about it, because we know as human beings, either we got it or we don't. We can either improvise or we can't. That's just how it works. And she was an improviser. It was great. But her, I agree with you. When she went on later through life and became a Jedi, there was that extra layer to her. And I liked Leia's journey. I mean, again, I'm more of a person that personally enjoyed the leadership and matriarchal journey of Padme a little more, but I still really enjoyed Princess Leia more so. I think after I want to say after Return of the Jedi, and when it got into where she explored her family ties.
Okay, thank you. Yes. All right, Mads. So, what is your take on Princess Leia Organa Solo? When you first seen her in the movies.
You see, I really liked her, like right from word go. I mean, first of all, she was everything. Ironically, everything a Disney princess wasn't. She was tough. She was, she grabbed that weapon. She stood up for herself. Honestly, a lot of her actually reminded me of my grandfather, which is probably why I actually adored her. Because when World War II, he signed up with the Dutch Resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he was doing the exact same thing that Leia does in the movies.
Yeah.
And she was such a, I don't want to quite say brash, but I don't have another word off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she didn't take shit. And that was just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
She wasn't that meek, quiet princess. She was, yeah, no, you are going to respect me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I take to that kind of stuff because it's what should be modeled.
Yes.
And we don't get to see enough of that nowadays.
Oh no, not in these times. Like in the 80s and 90s, the 90s started like teetering off and we stopped seeing it. But those are the golden years of women, protagonists and heroes.
Yeah. I mean, her Catwoman. I'll always go back to Catwoman. You guys know. But yeah, I just love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm probably not going to sit in for the twins because I know nothing about them.
Okay.
Being honest.
Okay, so you could go back and chat and moderate from moderate from me as well, and and learn some more and stuff. But we love having you here and expanding again. Like I said, I love it because we are all level of fandom in this panel, and it's great to hear everybody's opinion and how they perceive these characters and how they were impressed by these characters.
So I'm going to say, D, Mark, one of you two should get your cute butts in here. Okay.
Yeah, I sent the link out to D. I will send one out to Mark if you want to join, if you guys have time. Shoot, might as well just invite the whole Dark Council here as well. So yeah. So thank you so much, Maud. So if you want to, stay on until we're done.
I'll pop over to the chat.
All right. Thank you so much. Mwah. Thank you.
Love you. Love you guys.
Love you too. All right, Stieg, go ahead and share with us your impression of Leia Organa Solo, whether it's in the movies or in the EU or the overall lore. Just give us, your impression and how you perceived her.
Well, most of it has already been said, so I'm just gonna have to say I agree with what Abu and Drew and the others said about her, but I'm gonna add one thing. Leia, especially in the old trilogy, is a bit of a control freak because she criticizes every decision the others make for the most part, right? Especially Han Solo's decisions. And as soon as she's let out of that cell, she's pretty much a whirlwind of criticism aimed at Han Solo. And he even says it himself, no reward is worth this. The guy's overwhelmed. There's stabs at him and his ship and all kinds of stuff flying at him from Leia. And it's awesome. It really is. But it's also good writing because it shows that she's already a leader and she's used to giving orders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. So it sets up her tactical skills and a bit of her background. So the viewer already know from the get go pretty much that this lady probably knows a lot about how to be a rebel, you know.
Yeah.
And but she at the beginning she's a bit of a nag. I have to admit that, and I love the character, but
Yeah. And that's interesting, Stig. I'm not trying to rudely interrupt you or whatever, but we have people playing like Anakin and Luke who are wine babies, man babies, or whatever. But then when you point out that she's kind of a nag, I think that they're showing the humanness of these characters.
yes, exactly. They're not flawless, and her criticism is flying right at Han Solo for at least 2 movies.
Yeah.
It's a constant barrage of it. And as the kiss scene in Empire Strikes Back, that's when she starts to lower her guard, because you see it's her, I don't know, brashness is kind of a defense. And when she's in the back room with Han Solo and he's trying to kiss her, she doesn't have control, right? And you could see her be vulnerable when she doesn't have control. So she's not just a princess; she's also a very, a human being, And as a politician, she has to put on a mask, right, for the public. And Han Solo is the one who pretty much takes that down by being Han Solo, and they fall in love and all that. But at the beginning, we see more of the rebel rather than a human being, I guess, in episode 4.
Yeah.
Which fits perfectly, because that's what she's trained to be. I don't know if I made any sense, but I hope so.
Yeah. Yes. All right. I'm trying to send out a link to Mark right now, so I'm going to send one. But let's move on to the grandchildren, the next generation of the Skywalker lineage here. And we have the awesome, amazing twins, another set of Jedi twins, and that is Jacen and Jaina Solo. So we have Jacen, who turns into Darth Caedus, and we have Jaina, the Sword of the Jedi. And with them, they were basically born 9 BB or ABY. And so they were born right after, Tatooine, not necessarily after Tatooine Ghost, but Tatooine Ghost was right before the Thrawn trilogy. And she and Han have a discussion as they were fleeing Tatooine and fleeing from basically Pelion. And we lost Stig. Oh, hello. And so they're trying to get away from Pelion and the Chimera, and so that's a glimpse into getting Thrawn. So that's a tiny glimpse into Thrawn coming in when we get the Thrawn trilogy. So a little interesting segue right there. And she was like, "Hey, Han, I got to discuss something important with you." And he's like, "What now?" And he's trying to flee, and he's entering the coordinates in the Falcon. And again, she's being bossy. And so basically she says, "Why do you want to have kids?" And he's like, "Why are you talking about this now? We're trying to escape." And she goes, "Just answer me." And so he wants insurance of the future. He wants to have kids, basically, is what he tells her. And she's like, "Good. I wanted to hear that." And so basically that is the segue into her. And there is a somewhat sex scene in that novel. So maybe she's pregnant, maybe she's not. Who knows? But that's the segue into Thrawn trilogy when she's pregnant with the twins. So I thought that was interesting to share. So Jacen and Jaina, basically, they fought in the Yuuzhan Vong War. They fought in the Darkness trilogy. We see the fall of Jacen Solo, his torture from the Vong, and Vizier, and Maya, basically an old foe of Luke Skywalker, basically seduces him. And again, when Jaina is knighted, she's knighted as a Jedi, the Sword of the Jedi. So let's go ahead and have Drew, if you have any knowledge, just share with us what you think about the twins. And we're going to do both of them at the same time.
Like, really, with from what I know of Jacen Solo, I don't know as much really about him as I do kind of like I've looked more into Jaina, but
Okay.
but I like Jacen from the standpoint. I mean, he seems to me kind of reminds me in a way of you know, almost reminds me a bit of Starkiller when I was playing Force Unleashed. You know,
Yeah.
just, some of the qualities that he has, stuff like that, which I wonder about now when they made the Force Unleashed, if they didn't sort of pull from Jacen Solo, because it reminds, he has a lot of similarities, I think, to the Starkiller character, which I found really cool. And now, when you get into Jaina, I really love the fact that she's multifaceted. She's a Jedi. She's a hell of a pilot. Which goes hand in hand with being a Skywalker, of course. But I mean, it's so cool. She's just really awesome. And again, you've got a great female character that is built, strong, but with an organic foundation. And I love that about her. But I find Jaina to be definitely the more compelling of the two, because she seems just like she's really more skilled all around. I think with Jacen, he seems more like a traditional Jedi, but Jaina is more an all around like warrior, and she's good at a lot of things.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So going on to Abu, please, share with us the knowledge you have of the Solo twins. Your perception of them. How do they resonate with you? I guess you can say since we're talking.
Just the quick and dirty version, because like I said, I know we got a lot of people here. My brother Demogena is in the building. Hopefully, Mark can get in here.
What's up?
Basically, from the novels that I've read, especially during the Jedi Academy series with Kevin J. Anderson, which is one of my personal favorites. I don't know why those series of books really resonated with me. I really, really enjoyed his writing. That, and I know I didn't go through the whole Yuzon Vong War. I only read like 2 novels behind it, but I got distracted with other stuff, and I never did get to finish it. So I just basically went through the summaries of what happened. But I was so curious to try to finish it to get Jacen's thought. But then again, I've seen enough videos and I've read enough of the stuff that was online that was available that told me that, in his mind, after his little brother got taken out, Anakin, and the way he sacrificed himself, it changed Jacen. But let's just put it in this perspective where the twins are concerned. Jacen, throughout it all, he was a prodigy. He was a prodigy, just in the same veins as his uncle Luke, or pretty much his grandfather Anakin Skywalker. He was a prodigy, but he was a mischief maker. He was somebody that that loves to have fun at the expense of his sister. And Jaina was always, for lack of a better word, straight laced, but she was a little bit more serious than him. But the way that their journeys, was together, they both grew into, their learning of the Force, under Uncle Luke in the academy and everything, and all of that was so well done in terms of how their personality will eventually go. But when it came time to them being adults, Jacen was almost like every bit of an adventurer on the low.
Yeah.
But he was still cognizant enough that he had a duty and stuff and so forth. But Jaina, she was not playing. She was all about the business. She was all about, handling the missions that she was given and stuff. And she always, in terms of their personality, she had a lot of love for Han, her father. She literally adored her father. And the same thing with Jacen towards his mother. So I think the way that they played off in terms of who inspired them the most as children was just beautifully done. But they both loved their parents in equal, but their destinies as Jedis took different turns and stuff. So by the time we get to the legacy of the Force, Jacen, after the war and after Anakin passed away, Jacen became, it was like a light switch turned off for him.
Yeah.
And he followed the path of his grandfather towards the dark side, but not purposefully. In the way in which all heroes fall, they feel like they're doing something for the greater good. And in Jacen's case, the politics of the New Republic and the remnants of the Empire wanted to bring back the good old days, and he's caught up in the middle. And then Luke is not committing the Jedi to place one view over the other, so it really played on him, knowing that in the military, and that's where his focus was. He was about getting things done, and unfortunately for him, he took it a bit too far. Jacen and Jaina, as much as she loved her brother, as much as she was trying so hard to even in the Legacy of the Force series towards the beginning, she was trying to find some way to say no. Jacen could not ever think of doing nothing like that. That's how much she loved her brother. But when it came down to it, she had no problem, none whatsoever, turning off that side of her brain, even though she didn't truly turn it completely off. And OG, I'm thinking you can piggyback on that. She never really truly turned off her love somewhat for Jacen. She just knew that her duty to end whatever he was doing that was bringing darkness and the dark side, and then what happened with Mara Jade, she felt like that has to take precedence over my feelings for my brother that I love, because as Han said, we lost Jacen during the war. What came back was not our son. And that resonated with her. And their whole arc as twins, as Jedis, in terms of their character development, you couldn't get a better duo than that. You really
and they were yin yang basically, or yin yang basically, towards the end, because she was the light, the hope, she was the sword of the Jedi, and he fell for, and he thought it was for the greater good of the galaxy. And some may argue with this theory is that at the end of his death, at the end of his demise, to his sister, and again, that has to be the worst and horrible thing that you could ever do, having to take down your own family member, your twin at that.
The only reason she got the killing blow is that she said something to him that, like, get in the Force, she saw her brother like come back. I can't remember what it was, but that was before she gave the killing blow. That I guess the way when she stabbed him and he was already wounded, and she said something to him, and Jacen responded in a way in which opened up the Force that my brother was right there, but it was still already too late. He was
reaching out to Tenal.
That's what he was doing, reaching out to Tenal and Alanna.
And the Moff sent out the killing nanovirus to
correct to kill the Kais. And one of the things that when she did dispatch her brother, her love for him was still there, because her jaw was broken, and they came to like do something. She was holding him, and she said, "Don't touch him," because she still loved her brother. And sorry, I didn't see your request earlier. I was playing the game the whole time. I was sitting there playing some Final Fantasy, and I'm like, and then I turned around, I'm like, oh snap. But my first introduction to the twins was actually one of my former girlfriends. She had got me a gift, and she bought me 3 novels. They were just random, but they were all EU novels. They weren't the Del Reys. They were before they went to Del Rey. And it was like the young Jedi tales, and that's like when this is before Tenal had the accident, before they got the lightsabers. Actually, I think it was a book before that.
Yeah.
And it was about a stormtrooper who crash landed on whatever planet they were training at, and he was marooned there for like years after the Empire. So he still thought the war was still going. I forget what book that was, but that was the story that I was reading. But as far as like my favorite characters, I mean, you see behind me what I got there. Those are my ladies there. I got Tenal, I got Jaina Solo and Mara Jade. Obviously Leia, but I got Leia for the T-shirt. Accept your
Nice.
imitations, baby.
Yeah. And so what we're doing here, Jamaj and I, is that we're going around the horn and we're all sharing briefly what that character means to us, or what we see or view with that character in the story. We're doing the twins together because when we did the Skywalker twins, we did them individually. And so I'm trying to get through all of these characters, the Skywalker family, in a nice, timely manner, having everybody expand on them and stuff. So I'll have you hold your thought. Stig is up next. So go ahead, Stig, and share your thoughts about the twins.
Well, my memory about them are fuzzy because I read the books when they came out, and I haven't read them since. So it's the years are starting to pile up, aren't they? But I always liked Jaina more than Jacen, and I always thought Jaina was kind of like a mix between Luke after he became a Jedi Knight and Han Solo.
Yeah.
She kind of has the temper of Han Solo, doesn't she?
Oh yeah, she's Daddy's girl. She is.
Yeah, and out of all the expanded universe characters, those twins probably has the most development from A to B, and they go in different directions, of course, but they gradually learn, fail, become more powerful. And when the EU ends, Jaina is the Sword of the Jedi. And if you've read the books up until then, she sure as hell earned it, unlike Rey. And I think if I had to pick a favorite female Star Wars character,
Be right back. I got somebody at the door.
It would be Jaina, for sure. Easily. I like her more than Leia. That's pretty much it. I don't think I can add to. I don't think I can add much more because Albu pretty much nailed it.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. And then I will expand while waiting on Damaj and I will expand a little bit more on Jaina because we know we're past now where she went ahead and she fulfilled their mission and she killed Cadus. And like I said, the controversy thing is, did Jacen turn back to the light during that time? And I will say arguably no. Even if it's just very briefly, maybe yes. And the reason why I say that is when he appears in Lake of Apparition in Fate of the Jedi, he's still Darth Cadus. He still thinks what he did was purposeful and that he was in the right. So when Luke visits him in the Lake of Apparitions in Fate of the Jedi, and I don't know if any of you guys read that series yet, and we'll be covering that on my channel as well. Yeah, he in his exile, he is retracing Jacen's path when Jacen went out and did the 5-year hiatus, researching and learning more about the Force, more than what they learned in the Jedi. So he went and learned from different Force societies, and one of them that I talk about a lot is the Flow Walk, Luke learns from the Mind Walkers, basically. I think that's the name of them. And they go into the Lake of Apparitions, and he gets to see Mara Jade, and he gets to see, Jacen Solo. And Jacen Solo is basically, I'm still right. He still has that attitude towards his uncle as he did when in Legacy of the Force. So I thought that was an interesting bit. So I don't know if you guys read that, if you guys want to expand on it or not.
Well, you pretty much said everything that was in my mind, so yeah, I'm good.
All right, Devon and I.
Sorry about that. I I got my part for my bike just came in.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
I've been waiting for that for a week.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So go ahead and finish off what you were saying about the Solos, the Solo twins.
Yes. Like I'll say like this here, it's something I heard y'all was talking about earlier when Kathleen said that, certain people can't relate to Luke Skywalker. Well, Luke Skywalker was my favorite character, and Jaina Solo was my second favorite in Star Wars. And I'm neither white nor female, so that really annoys me every time I hear something like that, because Jaina is one of my favorite characters of the Star Wars lore. And y'all were touching on basically everything about the twins. Right, like I said, my first introduction to them was a Young Jedi Tales novel, and from there I think the one I started getting consecutive. I have everything from the Darkness trilogy on, so I do have a little gaps missing as far as the earlier stuff with them, but between the community and everything else, even Wikipedia, listen, it does have some valuable uses to it sometimes. I learned a lot about the twins, but like I said, when she fought Jacen and matter of fact, one thing I wanted to say too, I don't know if you saw what I wrote, when Jacen fought Mara Jade, he used the poison on her, and before she passed away, like that was like that part was so emotional for me, because like I had started to grow and have a care for these characters, and when she was dying, she said, "Luke is going to destroy you," and that was like you say, that was the one person Jacen was actually, apprehensive about, is Luke Skywalker.
He wasn't apprehensive. He pretty much did not want to see no parts of him. I guess if in some ways he masked it very well, but deep down he had a fear that his uncle, that he cannot overcome his uncle's power. He knew that as strong as he was and how much that he could overcome his sister, or overcome this one, or overcome that one, nobody could be his match except his Uncle Luke. And it burned him up. It literally it pissed him off for him to even admit that his uncle was somebody that he could not measure up to. Even when he was flying, even though when Luke was flying the X-Wing and they was in that little dogfight, Jacen sensed his uncle, and it literally terrified him that the way that he still flew his X-Wing fighter was like, this guy could do it all. He could do it all still. Yeah. And even when he fought him, he knew that he could not measure up to his uncle. It was always in the back of his mind. But that was his undoing. That was his undoing, because he was so focused on Luke. Jaina slipped in through the back door.
One of my favorite, it's not really sorry, but a favorite little passage out of what was it? I'm going blank on it. But when they were fighting the Lost Tribe of the Sith, I forget what book it was, and they were in they were underneath the temple, and they were basically getting swarmed by the Lost Tribe, and Luke was cornered, Jaina was cornered, and I think Luke had a broken arm or something, or Jaina had a broken rib or whatever, and to this day, like, it gives me chills every time I think about it. Is that they're fighting, and Luke calls out to Jaina. He says, "Master Solo, I need you," and that's when he promoted her to Master, because at that point she was a knight. He promoted, because when she got promoted to knight, she was the Sword of Jedi, but when she got promoted to Master, they were in the middle of that fight with the Sith, and he said, "Master Solo, I need you." And that's like, that was right there when it clicked to me. I'm like, you know what? Luke and Jaina are like my two favorite characters, bro. Like I just like, that was like one of my most favorite points of that. So yeah, I really can't say, as much more than everybody can say, but Jaina is out of the two twins, obviously is my favorite. And are you going to touch on the great grandchild or no? Because we don't have much of her. Because that's right when Disney bought.
We're going to go through it, and if we can touch on Alanna, then we will, but if not, then we won't. But I also wanted to touch on the Legacy Skywalkers as well. So, but let's just get through the grandchildren right now. Okay. So but I think that was Ascension, the novel Ascension, but I could be wrong. I'm revisiting the series to do for my lore videos, and Yeah, so and that's where he grants her as a master. And so that segues all the way into Crucible, and that gap in between Crucible and Legacy comics, to where we have no story, but we get the Fel Empire, which is Jaina and Jag's ancestors, and then we get the Skywalker and the Solo as well. And just imagine what had happened during that time. Just imagine Ben Skywalker maybe being Grandmaster, working in tandem with Jaina Fel to create the Imperial Knights, and how they worked in tandem together. And imagine how Han felt her as being Empress of the Fel Empire, kind of like the remnants of the Empire, basically. How
Correct.
he felt about that. Just imagine all that, what it could have been.
Yeah.
So,
it's funny you mentioned that the Grey Knights of the Fel Empire. 'Cause that was actually the first time I ever heard the term essentially a Grey Jedi, because they were kind of that was like the
they
first.
weren't really gray. They were.
I know they weren't Grey Jedi, but they had the gray sword. They had the white swords, I guess, and like I said, it was very vague once they got to that part. That's right around the time when Disney just started to, just destroy everything. So it wasn't much I could get into, but yeah.
Hey,
Hello there.
We're just having a grand old time in coffee chat, discussing the Skywalker family. All right, here, this order, did you follow in just the proper order here? So before we move on to Anakin Solo, our prestigious one that was named after his grandfather, and his short-lived life, go ahead and tell us your thoughts about the Skywalker, or not the Skywalker, the Solo twins.
After the Solo twins, I thought that the books, especially, were very good. My grandmother got them.
Nice.
Ooh, we got a bike.
Right on. I like the colors.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, the colors are nice. Did you get that in dedication of Mace Windu?
Nope, I got it because it was on sale.
But we'll still put down Mace Windu just because.
Big, are you still with us?
Yes.
You there, bro?
I'm listening intently.
Okay, awesome. All right, so go ahead and go on, Becky.
I personally was a big fan of Anakin Solo, just because for me that showed that Leia and even Han Solo forgave what Anakin Skywalker did to everything. It was kind of heartbreaking how he died, but that started the fall of Jacen. And for me, it was very similar to Anakin. But yeah, I do agree that when he came back as a Force ghost, well, a spirit or an apparition to Luke, he was still Darth Caedus.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Real quick, I would say, Becky, I like how we're holding it down today. I got the Cavs, you got the Browns.
And it's all Ohio.
Oh no, I'll never wear Ohio State.
No, I mean, Cleveland.
And I don't care about the Cavs or the Indians.
Oh my God, we got the Cavs part on.
Hey, look,
we're just repping the state.
Hey,
if I have to watch basketball, I'll watch the Lakers, and it ain't because of LeBron. I'm a Lakers fan.
Well, hey, Becky, my Miles Garrett jersey is in the laundry today, so I gotta do the laundry still. Because usually I'm holding down the Browns. That's my number one. So
I heard that. Gotta rep your teams, everybody.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I know Miles.
Am I the only one supporting Blackburn Rovers?
Probably so.
No, probably not.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our Anakin Solo here. And let me see, where am I at here with him? I have his birthday. I wrote it down, and I wanted to make sure I'm accurate with it, and I just can't find him.
You forgot his birthday?
Yeah, I have his birthday. So he was born 10.5 ABY. So he was born in the time of the Dark Empire. And so that's when we have Palpatine that came back. And again, this was written before the PT was, and before, you know, the whole Chosen One arc was fully developed for Anakin Skywalker. And so, that's the precedence behind that. And at the time it made sense. And then after the PT, it didn't really make that much sense. And so he died 27 ABY. And like I said in the beginning and during the stream, is that he was chosen to befall because George Lucas wanted Anakin to not so there wouldn't be no confusions with the Anakins, basically.
Yeah.
And stuff. And we have feedback going on. Is it me?
I don't know what that is.
I don't know. It sounds like a phone buzzing against a wooden table or
That's
something.
probably my notifications.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, my notification sound is actually Chewbacca.
Oh.
Nice.
That makes sense then. We have him in the background. And so and what's neat, what's kind of interesting was, so now that you say Chewbacca and the whole Anakin Solo arc is basically he was known, or he was seen to be the next one to step as Grandmaster of the New Jedi Order. Everybody's seen his gifted talents with the Force and how much he equals his uncle Luke Skywalker. And I think that's another reason why maybe George decided for him to, be killed off. But one of the pivotal moments in that was his relationship between his dad and Chewie, and how Chewie gave his life to save them, and that whole arc right there. So this is where we see Chewie die. And during Anakin's Solo's arc here, and that really, pissed off a lot of fans. And I thought it was a heroic, because if you know Chewie and the Wookiee society, they have a life debt, and so he would give his all to protect his family that he committed to, and so it makes perfect sense. And then when Anakin in the New Jedi Order, when Anakin took on the mission to Murker, he was still a Padawan. He wasn't a full knight yet, but he confronted his dad. He confronted Luke Skywalker, saying, "I'm the one that needs to do this. I need to lead them. I see this as, part of my destiny, basically." And so he leads them to the Murker strike to get rid of the Voxen, because the Yuuzhan Vong were cloning a species of their, canines with the Voingsters of Murker, and to use and prey on the Jedi. And so they were cloning. And so Anakin led that, and so they were starting to fail. So Anakin opened himself purely to the Force. I mean, all the way to the Force, to where the sense that he was shining in the Force.
Mm-hmm.
And because he did that, nothing could penetrate him. Everything that they threw at him, basically, he took to help save the mission.
Right. Yeah. That's when he died, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and start with Drew.
And
what?
Yeah, Becky.
And I like how the book Darth. Pardon
Becky,
me?
are you there? Listen, you got to do something about that notification. It is getting crazy.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, it's getting a lot of feedback on the stream.
You gotta try to either turn it off.
I'm sorry. Do you?
Yeah, just turn off the notifications while you're still here, so we can. Yeah, because now it's coming out of my TV.
I'll just leave. Okay.
No,
you don't have to leave.
No, don't leave.
I turned my notifications off and everything.
And it's still going?
Yeah, so if it's still going.
Is it set to vibrate?
Well, for whatever reason, it's coming out on my TV. Now, you said you turned off your notifications, so where's that coming from then?
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't be
Well,
hearing
I don't know, so I'll just leave, okay?
Or you can mute when you're not talking. So you don't have to go.
It is muted, but if it is muted.
No, your speaker.
I did mute it.
Or
no, your speaker on the mic.
Your speaker on the mic.
Yeah, mute your mic and then see if that works. And then when
does that work?
We can still hear you.
it's
Interesting.
still coming through. There has to be like the microphone symbol.
There's a little thing on your StreamYard, a little panel on the bottom that you can click on and off that says mute.
It's on the very bottom.
Now,
Chewie dies. I'm never watching again.
Yes.
Well, but you know what? That part with Chewie again. The part with Anakin, I'm a little vague on Anakin because, like I said, I have a bit of a gap in between my knowledge as far as the EU goes. But I do know of Anakin. I know his sacrifice. I do know that he became one with the Force. That part I do know. So.
I mean, I kind of, I'm with the mods night here, because I got some gaps in mine, and the thing is what I know of Anakin. I like the fact that he was more in tune the whole time with the Force side of things. We see a lot of saber wielders that are more, combat skilled, and he was more Force attuned, which I thought was really cool. The way that they presented him.
Yeah, I agree.
Now it was awesome that he had like different abilities, like he could be dual wielder and stuff like that. But the thing is, really and truly, when it came down to it, his bread and butter was, he had that Force attunement that not the average Jedi have.
Yeah, even Jacen and Jaina said as much about Anakin in terms of his knowledge of the Force was something that they even said would probably surpass them at one point.
Yeah, exactly. He had that natural Force attunement, and and that makes all the difference in the world, because usually that's the big dividing line with Jedi. You always got varying levels of Force attunement.
And Jacen was very, very attached to Anakin.
Yes, he was.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and that was one of the things that broke him when he died. It was just because Anakin had a great soul. He had a wonderful soul. It was just like it was almost like a being of not so much as a perfect being, but perfectly balanced. And just to have the name Anakin, it just kind of fit because his grandfather was kind of like that when he was a boy. So just growing up, he just had a wonderful, wonderful personality that everybody was drawn to.
Yeah,
So it was a shame, when he died like that.
Yeah, Abu, you bring up a good point, because it's like you said, he was pretty much a direct echo of his namesake.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, that was pretty impressive, the way
Was.
they
I
brought
feel
that
the same
across.
way.
Exactly. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah. And I'm going to expand on that before we move on to Abu, is that when you see Anakin and Jacen, the brothers' relationship, Anakin, he had like the attunement with the Force and stuff, but he also seen the lightsaber as a elegant weapon, just like Obi-Wan did, and so he was always practicing with it. And Jacen, who wanted to learn more about the Force, and this is before he went on his hiatus, he would always question his brother, why are you always focusing on your saber? And he was like, well, we need to focus on our saber. You never know when we need to use it, blah blah blah. So there was that push and pull between the two, and it was kind of like an animosity between the two in a sense as well. And another great thing about Anakin is that he's still trying to figure out his place in the Force as well. And Mara Jade was had that virus that the Vong had casted her with, and so she needed to go somewhere to be well. So they went to, I think it was Endor, no, it wasn't, it was Yavin. They went to Yavin, and Luke Skywalker made Anakin the guardian of her while she went and recovered and reconnected with the greater Force.
Right.
And and she taught Anakin, don't use the Force all the time. You need to learn how to be physical. So I thought that was a great little alignment here with his story as well. So Abu, give us your thoughts about Anakin Solo.
Well, just as I just said, I'd probably even made it made it very clear that this man, and just to piggyback on Drew, his namesake Anakin was, pretty much he embodied what the real Anakin Skywalker, his grandfather, was when he was a child. Helpful, very loving, very giving, very caring. He carried, Anakin Solo carried that trait throughout his youth and until the young man he became to be. But as it was said before, he was extremely force attuned, and his abilities, didn't mirror exactly what Jaina and Jacen's was. He had his own, his style. He had his own thing, but he was just he was like a facilitator of love and togetherness whenever there was some issues between the twins and stuff like that. Anakin was always that bridge to bring people together, and even his mother said so, his father. It's almost like as perfect a character you would be, but he served the purpose in terms of the family hierarchy. Jacen Solo, the adventurer, the handsome, dashing guy with a quirky sense of humor, and Jaina always, on point, serious about the mission, such and so forth, by the book, like her mother, very, very attuned to what's going on in the galaxy and stuff. And here's Anakin being the little brother, just holding both their hands and just creating that togetherness. And after he passed away, that whole thing went away. That shows you how much of an impact he affected on his family, the readers, because like I said, he had his own personality, he had his own process. He was more like a healer in some ways. Now that I think about it, he was more like not even so much as like he was great in force healing, but his character, he just had that personality that literally brings the best out of people, and I love that about him as a character.
Yeah, and what's interesting as well that I'm thinking before we move on to Stieg, is part of the scene where they're the Vong are attacking Lando's base there, and I forgot the asteroid belt that they're in. I forgot the name of it. So, but it's like I'm drawing blanks or whatever. So Anakin, this is after they lose Chewie. And then so Anakin, and so Han is upset, and he's starting to go through his, his mentality of mourning, and he's pissed off at his son because he's blaming his son, blah blah blah, and they're confronting the Vong, and they needed to scatter, and they lose their Jedi meditation meld for fighting. And so basically Anakin does a force jump, which basically in the EU, in the original lore, it is a very, very risky to do that. So he does a blind force jump, and that worries Leia to death. And she senses that he's okay in the force, but they go look for him. But the risks of that is, running into objects, running into a planet, basically dying. And we don't see that in Disney. You could just jump anywhere, and you could jump onto a planet in atmosphere, which in the original lore, because they stick to science and all that, if you get into an atmosphere of a planet, you're dead and stuff. So I thought that was very interesting. So go ahead, Stig. Go ahead and give us your thoughts about Anakin Solo.
Well, he is the one I remember the least because, like I said, I read the books when they came out, and that's probably
poor Anakin.
Probably over 15 years ago now.
Yeah,
maybe closer to 20. I don't know, but like always said, Anakin was kind of the glue that held the siblings together, right? And when he vanished, the other two drifted apart.
Yeah,
and it's a trick that writers do a lot, is that they if there's a character that everyone loves, all the other characters like him and all that character is likely to die, because you need to make it worse for the main characters, right, to raise the stakes and all that. Tolkien did it by killing off Gandalf. He came back later, but still. So if likable characters that are liked by all tend to die. But as far as Anakin goes, I don't remember too much about him.
Okay.
But I remember liking him, and I was gutted when he died.
Yeah.
And the twins kind of drifted apart after that. It really did. And ended with one of them killing the other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it began their arc, and her, Jacen's descendants into Darth Caedus and stuff, and that's why this is one of the reasons why I love George Lucas's Star Wars, no matter if it's the movies or the EU or whatever, is that there is growth, there's character growth, and there's a coherent storyline within all of it.
Yeah, and if everything is good, the story is not interesting. You always need a form of conflict, right? To drive the characters.
Yeah,
and
there was
usually that's caused by some sort of usually that's caused by some sort of disaster. In this case, it's Anakin dying, and the ripple effects of that carries through all the other series that come after that.
Yes, yeah,
because it affected both siblings. So basically, when he died, it set up a kind of a plot line for the two twins that branched out from that in different directions.
Yeah.
And it's good writing because they're planning ahead.
Yeah.
It's not like they killed them off willy-nilly just to kill someone.
Yeah, exactly. Like they did actually characters and
Yeah, and I remember him being very unfairly blamed for Chewie's death by Han Solo. I always thought Han was a bit of an asshole when he did that.
Oh, he was blaming Anakin for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
But then again, Han Solo is not a perfect character. That's what makes him a good character. He has his flaws, and they sure as heck, came into view when Chewie died, and he basically blamed Anakin.
Yeah.
And that's
he snapped out of it later.
That's one thing I'm glad you said that. Like he said, he had his flaws. That's one of the things that makes a story. Your hero can't be all perfect because then it doesn't become relatable. Everybody has their flaws, so you got to have flaws for your character to become relatable.
Yeah,
and,
Mary.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but you invoked the name. So that is the problem. Exactly. Yeah. That's what makes her so unappealing, because the fact that she does everything perfectly.
Let the woman say it so that you guys don't get in
trouble. Thank you.
I know. Keep my mouth shut. Keep me shut.
We just quiet over here.
Yeah, exactly. So go ahead and expand a little bit more, Damajanai.
As far as Anakin goes?
Yeah, about Anakin Solo, yes.
Yeah, so like I said, when I said poor Anakin, I meant that because he's like my least knowledge-based character that I have, in the EU. But like I said, like everything everybody's been saying, I agree with, because from the bits and parts that I did know about Anakin, it's basically what y'all said. He was basically in tune with the Force, and he was that glue that kept the twins together, and and that's another thing too. When you say that he had an affinity to the Force, each character had their own strengths and weaknesses. Again, what you were talking about earlier with the Mary Sue, by them having strengths and weaknesses and not being to do every Force ability. Jacen, when he was younger, he was good with fixing things, and he had an affinity for animals. Yes. That part I remember about with Jacen. He had an affinity for animals, so like he would be able to connect with them. Yeah, he would be able to connect with the animals and stuff. So, but with Anakin, like you say, the fact that he was able to become one with the Force as he was a Padawan, correct? Yeah. He wasn't even a knight yet. By the fact that he was able to connect with the Force on that level and not even be on a knight level, it says a lot about his connection to the Force. So, yeah,
exactly. All right. So, and then another thing that I was thinking about is that, the Force meditation, basically Anakin is the one that, I wouldn't say he brought it back, but he was the one that during that fight, where before he catapulted himself randomly into hyperspace and stuff, blindly did that. He put himself in a battle meld with his siblings, and so that was a pivotal moment for him as well. And so again, if you guys haven't read anything about Anakin Solo, go ahead and and get on the New Jedi Order and all that. I mean, it's a 19-book series. I love that series because of the Yuuzhan Vong. It's a different threat to the galaxy. It's not the same old remnant.
Yeah,
Empire.
I only read the first 2 novels, but like I said, I had fell off the wagon, so I'll get back on the ball at some point.
Yeah. Yes, that's your homework
And
too,
there's a
Mr.
lot of
She giving you homework now.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Are you gonna pull out the ruler too? Give a little hand
I got the
slapping.
pin right here.
Well,
Rule is like the pin.
she gonna wrap our knuckles, boys.
You know what? I'll happily go into detention.
You lucky we're not on the council, brother, because you know I got a
right?
song
Let me
ready
just
for
shut
you.
my goddamn
I got a
mouth
song
right now.
ready for you.
Let me shut my damn mouth.
Matter of fact, just for everybody to know, love you.
You can't sing it, and you can't sing it better unless we got the council with us. So
Yeah, that's the harmony of the council, I guess.
I know,
Yeah.
but still, it's still
But,
there though. We know what we got for you on deck.
but yeah, like I said, I got distracted with other stuff with it. But at the very least, I caught the only reason I caught up with that series was just through the summary and just knowing that Anakin made that sacrifice. That I was like, oh shit, I didn't, you know what I'm saying? So I already rushed it to the end, but all the details and the particulars, I got to go back and do it. But they've just been putting out good books, throughout that whole series and stuff. And now that we got the proper timeline from you, before Disney just messed that up, now we get properly, chronicle all the adventures of the twins and Anakin and how everything went to shit in, the legacy of the Force. And like I said, it's all cohesive. And that's what I loved about these writers that was doing these individual stories and stuff. They did their homework. They made everything cohesive from book to book, unlike Disney and all these other knuckleheads. So,
Yeah.
All right. So next up, we have the honorary true Ben of the family, Ben Skywalker, the one that was named after his father's mentor.
Which makes way more sense.
Yeah, pretty much.
Way more sense. Like, it's, I know it's not my term. I know you're doing rotations, but I just got to say this real quick. What does Leia have to do with Obi-Wan Kenobi? Other than the fact that was her foster father's best friend. But she really didn't interact with him. If anybody, Luke, Obi-Wan was there with him his whole childhood. He knew who Ben Kenobi was.
Yeah, that's true.
Why would she name her son Ben? If anything, his name should have been Bell Solo. That would have made more sense because that's her foster father's name.
Yeah.
Maybe,
and
maybe because Luke,
Leia never even called Kenobi Ben.
Yeah.
Exactly, she called him Obi-Wan. Correct.
And Han Solo didn't even like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Han spent a day with him, and he didn't even like him that much.
Yep.
Yeah. He didn't believe in he knew. We knew Han knew about the Force because I'm sorry, he wasn't that ignorant. And when you read the Han Solo trilogy, he kind of understands the Force and everything. But he also grew up in basically like the fringes and stuff. So and he grew up, was raised by a Wookiee and all that. But we're not getting into that. We're not getting into the we're not getting into the ones that they married. So that's why we didn't do Han and we didn't do Mara Jade. So with Ben Skywalker, so basically he was born 26.5 ABY, and he was basically, to me, he was a blessing and a gift to Mara Jade to help her heal from the disease that the Yuuzhan Vong or the virus that the Yuuzhan Vong gave her. And Mara Jade was using the Force to survive. She said basically as long as she was connecting with the Force and active, she was defeating it. And Vergere basically healed her or helped heal her with her tear and gave her some tears to use. And that helped her enough to get pregnant. And so we have Ben Skywalker. And again, he was named after Luke's mentor. And during that time frame when he was young, the Luke and them sent all the young Padawans and family members and stuff to the mall, the shelter in the mall.
Correct.
And so basically during that time frame, and this is like a hint of like Abeloth.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm so glad you said that. Yes.
Abeloth, because Ben Skywalker sensed her. He sensed her tentacles. He seen her, and so he cut himself off from the Force in fear and to protect himself.
Okay.
And so when he returned back, and when he was 8 years old, and Jacen Solo came back, basically he trusted Jacen Solo enough to so he could start opening in the Force. So I'm going to leave it with that. We're going to go ahead and start with Demogeny and go around the circle. So give us an explanation about what you've seen with Ben Skywalker.
Well, what I seen about Ben Skywalker is, again, like I said, I started like a little late with this, so I knew about him cutting himself off with the Force, and I knew that him becoming an apprentice to Jacen. And one of the first stories that it was, I forget what book it was. I'm going blank on. I had the image of the cover in my head, but I can't remember the name of the book. They were in the beginning of the book. They start out and they were doing something, and they jumped from a building, and Ben had his lightsaber activated, and Jacen was giving him a lesson. He says, "Why do we not do that, Ben?" And he was like, "Oh, because we could accidentally cut ourselves up." Which, by the way, when you see how certain other companies use a lightsaber, how it does, like this thing is it's a laser. I mean, granted, it's not but it is literally, I mean, a laser that's on a hilt that can cut through steel and everything, and you're waving around and touching people, and it's not cutting limbs off. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Disney bullshit.
Yes, I'm just saying. So that was one of my first introductions to how him and his big cousin interacted, and and again, like I said, it didn't make any sense for him. Like when they first introduced Ben Solo, I'm like, Ben Solo, really? What? Really? Which again made no sense to me, but he also had red hair too. He had a little red hair like his mom, which they didn't show. Every different picture of him was like a little different. Like some of them showed little bits of red, but he had red hair like his mother too. So that part I remember too.
And blue eyes like his father.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna say real quick, Alora, I do have to take off. I think I got some writing to do. So
okay. I know we're pushing on 3 hours. Thank you guys so much, and I'm just enjoying this chat. And thank you so much for coming in and sharing us your opinion about the Skywalker family, and how much they impacted you as going into the lore.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me, man? This is great.
Yeah.
And I got to be finally on that same stream with Abu and Demogeny, and it was awesome, and always nice to see Stig, and that was cool that got some time to spend with Mads and Becky, and of course it's always good seeing you and Laura.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Take it easy, brother.
Hey, take care, fellas.
All right.
All right.
And so now there's 4.
Yes, now there's 4. Yeah, and so we're pushing on 3 hours, and thank you guys so much. This is one of the longest streams I've ever had, but I'm enjoying this. I wanted to honor the Skywalker family. So, I want to try to get through almost all of them, at least the grandchildren. So, all right, Stig, so go ahead and give us your thoughts about Ben Skywalker and his arc, or, whatever you want to share.
Well, I've always felt Ben was the natural extension of Luke and Mara, and he was being set up to take over from Luke eventually when Luke passes away, and we get to see his Force ghost in the Legacy comics. Luke is dead by then. We don't know how. R2 is still around though. But
yes, R2. That's the thing. I love it. One day we're just going to chat about the 2 droids, because
they're the narrators of the story.
Yeah,
they're the narrators.
Yeah, and I'm guessing they had a kind of like a loose long-term plan, where they were trying to fit where we left off in the EU into the Legacy series, which is 120 years later.
Yeah,
something. And you could see them start to set up Ben Skywalker being probably one of Yeah, well, his line would lead to Cade, right? And Jaina's line would lead to the Fel Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that being put into into motion rather when just when Disney scrapped it all.
Yeah, pissed me off so much. It really did.
Yeah, and well, like you said, Demarjan, like Disney don't even understand lightsabers because
They sure
even in
don't.
that new Star Wars game, the Fallen Order,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
lightsabers are just damage sticks.
Exactly.
They,
They're like
yeah,
they're
they
almost
look
like what were those things that they were using Grievous's his soldiers. They had like the buzz droids with the I forget what they were
Yeah.
called, but they're like shock sticks almost.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
basically what
it's
they
like,
are, Granted,
like
look,
a
I
roll.
get it. I get it. In the game, it's kind of hard to do that because you basically, technically speaking, with a lightsaber, you basically one shot everybody in the game. If you're, if it's going by
Yeah.
true lore, I get that, but I don't know.
Well,
And one thing
they
too, I
they
wanted to
managed to do it
piggyback.
in the Jedi Knight games.
I wanted to piggyback
Call
over.
games. If you hit a stormtrooper with a lightsaber, he's dead. The arm falls off.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think was it the PlayStation 2 version of the Force Unleashed. You could if you hit people with a super move, you could lop off limbs. You could lop off limbs, but just like the arm or something like that. But it was like a super move you could do it with only.
yeah.
But I was going to say to piggyback off of you when you said Luke was a Force ghost, they actually was laying seeds to that, which I believe they were laying seeds to that with his fight with Abeloth. I think that was one of the things that would lead to his, pending demise was the fact that Abeloth stabbed him in the Force through his chest in the Force. And like when Jaina was getting married, because that's how they ended the Abeloth saga, was Jaina was getting married to Jagged, and she looked at her uncle and he seemed like a little weathered. So you're right, so no, I'm okay. But he was really hurt from Abeloth stabbing him in the Force. So I think that was a foreshadowing going forward.
Yeah, I think he's dying
Yeah.
at the end of that book. It's
Which would have made sense because that would mean that would add up to the legacy comics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and with him dying, Luke is the mentor at this point, and the mentor always dies, so the other characters can be forced to stand on their own feet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure that's what happens. In the fate of the Sword of the Jedi trilogy, pretty much it might end with Luke dying.
Mm-hmm.
Which would be sad, but at least he doesn't die from an overdose.
Yeah.
And
I don't even acknowledge that.
Yeah, and what I'm going to say, Stick, is that when we get to the end of Crucible, and basically he's saying I'm, how is it when he's talking with Ben Skywalker? How is everybody holding up at the Order? And he's like, fine. He's like, what is going on, Dad? He's suspecting things. Luke's like, I'm just going to go basically on vacation. So he sends off his Jedis to go find Abeloth to try to get her back imprisoned. And he still has that tentacle, that Force tentacle of Abeloth in his stomach. So he's still wounded through the Force.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see that, during that after Crucible, anytime while they're handing down the proverbial lightsaber to the big three, Ben, Jaina, and Jack fell, that, Luke basically maybe dies on a mission or dies confronting Abeloth one more time and defeating her. We don't know. So that's just speculation or whatever, but it's a great ending to his journey, is passing on. And I think it would be done quite well. And maybe we would have got more information about that in Sword of the Jedi novel trilogy. Mm-hmm. So Stig, do you have anything else to add before we move on to Abu?
How do you make Abeloth laugh?
Okay, let's hear that.
You give her 10 tickles.
10 tickles.
Well, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
All right, so Abu Nathan, your own creative way, tell us more about Ben Skywalker.
Oh, I mean, it's just basically what everybody else has said, so I'm just piggybacking on everyone else just to try to move this along. Besides, chest is starting to get tight, so I might have to might have to dip. Ben, I absolutely love the character from the jump. You know, just as Damaj and I said, at first the name Ben didn't strike me as the type of name that you should give the name of Luke and and Mara, but at the end of the day, yeah, the way that he had the utmost respect and admiration for Obi-Wan, it did kind of fit. It just took me a little bit to really get into that mode. So, but obviously he was another prodigy in and of itself. Kind of headstrong in certain ways, in terms of his personality, but Luke kind of liked that in him in some respects. And this is just off the cuff of the stories that I was reading with him. And I figured, Luke's temperament was just perfect for his son because he gave him enough rope to fail, but know that you could pick yourself up. And Ben turned out to be the type of apprentice that kind of balanced Jacen at the very beginning, and that's why Luke. Was it Luke that told Ben to be his apprentice, or? I can't
it was
remember.
Mara J, but Luke at first agreed with it because Ben felt so comfortable using the Force around Jacen.
Okay.
Yeah,
I completely forgot who it was that pushed Ben to be Jacen's apprentice. But even so, their team up was pretty good, especially during the formative years. Because Jacen still had this adventurous, mischievous thing, and like I said, he actually enjoyed training Ben. Because he felt like he would go along with just about anything Jacen would think up. So it was kind of fun to see. So I guess by the time the whole relationship went sour and it really kind of messed up Ben behind it because of how much he admired and respected his cousin, as his master, and that's just what made the dynamic of the story choices that the Legacy of the Force made even that much more interesting. So, but as a character, Ben Skywalker was top notch. I loved it.
All right, so we're going to end with Ben Skywalker. We've been going strong maintaining between 25 and 31 viewers for 3 hours. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and say some more about Ben Skywalker, and we'll close here. I'll have everybody lead us to their channels as well. So Ben Skywalker, when you see him, especially in the Legacy of the Force, he's Jacen's apprentice, so he sees Jacen's fall. He sees Lumaya on her asteroid, basically, and the Shadow Man basically turn Jacen to Darth Caedus, and that's what begins his journey. So when we get to the point of where because we get Korriban reintroduced, we get the Lost Tribe introduced, all that story. Yeah, and so when we see Mara Jade's death, Jacen basically is there, but he's hiding in the Force, and so Ben suspects Jacen of killing. He's like, I know it, and because he was trained in the GAG, the Galactic Alliance Guard, he knew how to investigate. So he didn't use his Force sensibility, even though he sensed it in the Force that Jacen killed his mother. He used those training to show his family that Jacen killed his mother. And during that time frame, Luke Skywalker and Ben were not seen eye to eye.
Yes. Yeah, I forgot about that too.
Ben was almost almost Caedus's apprentice for a hot second.
And what Lumaya said is that just like Luke Skywalker Ben is too much on the light side to be turned. And so then we get the segue all the way into Fate of the Jedi after everything is said and done, and he goes on exile with his father, which is another pivotal moment. And so he's such a great character that I wish we could have been expanded on with Jaina as well, and Jagged, the big three that I predict would have been up. So thank you so much. And so we'll begin with Abu Nas. Go ahead and, last final words or anything you want to give us and your channel. Yes. Take your time.
You all right there, man?
Yeah, just Yeah, my name is Abu Nas. I am so sorry, everybody. I didn't mean for that
It's
to
perfectly
happen.
fine, darling.
Um, yes, name is Abu Nas. I'm just so thankful that my beloved OG has invited me on this live stream that I had caught too damn late, so I apologize for that. But I had such a ball, and you can find me on my YouTube channel, Abu Nas, obviously. But the show is called The High Ground, where I discuss all types of good things that involve Star Wars and a little bit of other pop culture stuff. Most of y'all probably know me already. You know I'm on Twitter holding it down for the fandom and representing the one. I'm 1/6 of the Dark Council. You can check us all every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. But this time we are going to be hosted by the Fatal J Show next Tuesday. So definitely pop on there. That's where we'll be. And like I said, I'm hoping that you enjoyed this live stream as I did. And God bless and good afternoon.
All right, Stick, go ahead and say your final last thoughts. Share your channel.
Oh, just a tiny channel with some silly videos on it. It's just humorous videos, so people seem to like them. Other than that, I'm just a geek from Norway, really. Hopefully, normal. um, Other than that, thank you so much for having me on. I always enjoy talking EU with people who are huge fans of it, and so thank you for that, and thank you to Abu and Demaj and I, and Drew and Becky and Mama Bear who were also on for being a good company and fun people to talk to. It's always a
Yes.
pleasure.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you for joining us, Stig. I'm glad to have you here and discuss this with your knowledge of writing as well. So go ahead now, our last but not least, Damajanai.
Hey now. Yes, I am Demajini. My channel is DMAJINI. You can definitely check me out on that. I do shows Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I also have my live stream on Saturday, Spell Broken Live. And Sundays, I have Keepers of the Force with myself and Fatal J. We alternate channels. And of course, as Abu Nas said, you can find all 6 of the Dark Council every Tuesday at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time with myself, Brother Abu Nas, Fatal J, Lord Callus, Drunk 3PO, and the Gospel according to Mark with a C. Yes. And like you said, this week we will be hosting on Fatal J's channel. So make sure you check that out. And one more quick thing. If you want to get some shirts like this, it's in my Teespring. I got this one here, Accept No Imitations. You got the real Skywalker, the real trilogy. You got Han, Luke, and Leia, and you got Luke right there. All old school stuff. The regular OGs of this. Make sure you check that out also. And thank you very much for having me up here, OG.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys, whoever stood out with us, talking about the Skywalker family from the original lore. I had a great time with every single one of you. Check out every Tuesday I do lore videos, and every Thursday copy chat. I am on the Toxic Femininity channel as well, or show. Catch me there. I'm also part of Fandom Menace, and we are once a month, but I think we might be doing twice a month. Don't quote me on that. That's still up in the air. So you never know. We might have twice a month. Goodness of Fandom Menace. So
We love it too.
so much. And this is a Legends Girl Productions, and you guys have a great day. May the force